Hello, this is James. This is Roll the Roll. You know Alice, and we're going to talk about the beginner box. A lot of people might call this a review. As you know, we have a tendency to try and break it down with things that we like, things we don't like. We'll tell you if it works or if it doesn't
Mhm.
work. Um, we will be doing a playthrough of this where we're going to find some brand new people to tabletop RPGs, never done it before ever, and we want to present it to them as it comes and see how they take it. And so we should, I will say should, be back with another review like that. But I think Alice has an agenda, so we're going to let her get started.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good place to start talking about its approach as a beginner box. I will say I am hopeful of its ability to teach new people. I think one of the things that can definitely be praised about this is its clarity. I think even just like the simple color schemes and the descriptions in here are really clearly done, and I really appreciate that. I think one of the things I generally appreciate is in terms of the spell casting. Because I will say, even amongst experienced players, one of the difficulties I've had multiple times with players is basic saves.
Mm.
So I appreciate that throughout the Hero's Handbook, this is explained at least 2 times. Once in a box on the spellcasting page on one of the spells. It's like, here's how basic saves work, because so many people don't read that bit. So I really appreciate that they seem to understand which parts people seem to miss and have been very clear about them. So that's definitely a good start. But before we get to that, we do have our character creation. So we only have a few options, which is a good thing because obviously one of the draws of Pathfinder, but also one thing that makes it complicated, is the amount of options. Like there's certain people who I could be like, yeah, we'll go into Pathfinder. There's some people before I could not have started with Pathfinder 2e with them because they struggle too much and get overwhelmed. And this would have been too much. And I think this provides a good like intro for them as beginners, where it's a much more contained and much more directed character thing, which I think can be better for some people.
It's actually a callback to the original OG uh, before it became advanced. With what, the 3 ancestries and the 4 classes. Yeah,
Yep,
we're only missing the halfwing, guys. Paizo, you
4
failed us. You
halflings.
didn't get the halfwing in there.
Uh, but no. But one thing I do wish though is because, like I said, one of the draws of Pathfinder though is its options. I've absolutely agree with limiting them for this, but I wish it mentioned like it doesn't say in the book. Here's only some of the options, but we're presenting a limited array for you. Right now, it's like these are the options. Like if you didn't know anything else, you could be mistaken into thinking these are the only options because it doesn't clarify that there are more out there. There could just be a little bit that says when you're feeling more ready, check out this for like more options, but there's not. And I feel like that's a odd choice because I could definitely feel like people who are completely blind to this not realizing that and thinking this is the entirety of the options, which I feel like is missing out on one of the major draws of Pathfinder.
I can
So
see that.
yeah,
But
that's an
as
odd
a
option.
beginner box, right? To just grab 4 friends and
No, absolutely. I think it does provide what you need for that, and I think it's really good for that. And yeah, and I was quite actually surprised we got new art like for the little like ancestries and class and stuff. Like I was expecting it to all be art we've seen before, so it was really nice to see some cute new art in it as well. I get like the Desnan elf and everything.
yeah, it's really good art. I'll try and
It
find that
is.
as we go through this.
Yes.
So I'm on an ancestries page here, and this is the same
Yep.
kind of layout they use in the core rulebook, where they line them
Yep.
all up, show you what they are.
That something I really liked in the core rulebook, and they clearly see that's worked.
And so as you can see, we can be a dwarf, an elf, and a human.
We get a small description underneath, and then an introduction to them. And then yeah, we get like a few heritages for all of them. But this is one of the things I was confused about is like the warden human and the battle trained human are not heritages from the core rulebook. Are we supposed to take these as actual heritages you can pick up? or is this like beginner box specific? Because these are not like previous options; these are new options, and I'm not sure how we're supposed to treat them. So that's definitely something there could have been more clarity on.
Well, um, some of these are could be gotten through
Yes, some of
through
it's
other
picking
heritage,
stuff.
like
Yeah,
getting martial weapon training. I don't know that you could both get martial weapon training and die hard, so battle trained is really good.
yeah. Like I
And
feel like these are slightly stronger.
warden human is not that strong. It gives you trained in medium armor or expert in fortitude, which I do believe you can just take straight up feats as a human to do that.
Yeah,
But the add 4 to your maximum hit points is completely new and out of left field,
yeah.
and can quite literally make human best, the best.
Level one class.
I mean, they were already the best. Let's not be, but I mean now they have hit points equal to like a very specific heritage of orc, and that's cool.
Yeah. So I do wonder, yeah, like, are we supposed to treat this as like an accepted thing, or is it only in the beginner's box? And like, if it is, like, I think that there should definitely be more clarity on that for people who are like, oh, I want to play this, that was cool, and then being told they can't. It's like,
I would say that this is one of those go to your game master for approval kind of things.
yeah,
I play a lot of Paizo stuff, so I would absolutely allow anyone to take any of these.
yeah,
Um, I mean, they might
but
be a little more powerful than things that you can get out of the CRB, especially Battle Trained Human. That seems really good, to be honest. But I mean, hey, it's all about fun.
yes.
And having 4 more hit points than the other human fighter is not going to make you too much stronger.
And then yeah, for the classes, I really like that. Yeah, again, they do provide some options that like pick one of these three and stuff, but again, provide a much more small thing and choose certain things for you, because again, that's the whole point of the beginner box is to try and get rid of that sort of choice anxiety that some people get when presented with so much.
I do
Uh,
think I do think that the 4 classes they chose kind of hit all of the benchmarks that they need. They are a good foundation for moving into the other classes as you expand your knowledge of
yeah,
Pathfinder.
and I feel like they're
Um,
very archetypal ones as
yep,
well.
the cleric,
Sort
the
of the
fighter,
fighter, the
the
rogue, and the
rogue, and
wizard.
the
It's
wizard.
like even without the pre-gens, and the pre-gens are great as well, but even without them, it's like you know what kind of character you're playing. They give you very archetypal ones, which I really appreciate. I do wish we had a prepared spellcaster, sorry, a spontaneous spellcaster, because both of the spellcasters are prepared. And again, I do want to praise how spellcasting is described in this. It is very clear. I feel like a beginner could quickly pick up what could be really quite confusing for people from this, but I feel like you couldn't learn spontaneous from this, so that's something you can't learn from this as a beginner, which could then really throw you if you went into a further play.
I
So
think
it would
I
be
think
nice.
I think the best addition to this class wise would have been the bard.
Yes,
That
that
is
would have
the
been cool.
quintessential 5th player class. I
Yeah,
think. Um,
we got some funky new elf bard art as well.
I think it's because the bard is the easiest one of these class, or is way easier than the rest of these classes to build as like the party talker. You know, the
Yes,
I go in and talk my way out of things, or
yeah,
I try and get additional
yeah. I think one of the things
rewards.
though is this adventure doesn't consider that you might talk your way through things.
It
I
does
would say
not,
it's a very fighty adventure.
and that's okay
The one that's
because
presented in the
we all know fundamentally that Pathfinder and any of the games that came before it that it is based on, the whole point of the game is to go out, kill monsters, get treasure, buy better stuff to kill stronger monsters, to get stronger treasure, to kill stronger things. Um, and I mean, you can play a game that is like massively open-ended role playing with very little combat.
mm,
But there are probably better systems for that.
See, I enjoy collaborative storytelling, but with dragons. So I'm much more somebody who's into a lot of the storytelling and does appreciate different ways to resolve things, including more diplomatic ways. So I think it's a shame that it doesn't even consider it, even if it assumes most people will go aggressive. I feel like it's a shame there's not like if they try to talk to the kobolds
I
or if they
think
try to.
I think just the fact that the game is what it is, that most people that pick
But
it
I
up
think
are
they're
going to
challenging what the
assume.
game is in a lot of ways, and I think it's good to challenge that. And yeah,
I
I
I
wish that
agree.
was incorporated.
I agree. So Paizo, you need an intermediate box where you explore all these more in-depth things, add more classes. It's another box. You telling me you wouldn't buy it?
Boxes,
I'd buy it.
I'd buy it. Yeah. But no,
Oh,
but we will get to the adventure in a bit because I do think it is very good. But one of the things I was surprised about was that it wasn't like there's only one part of the adventure that includes undead, and it's a rather optional part, even though the cleric they give you is very focused on undead. Like one of the things is they don't give you the divine lance cantrip, so your main damaging cantrip is disrupt undead, but you can only use it in one encounter,
oh no.
which I feel like is a real shame for the cleric. I feel like in that encounter, the cleric shines, and that's a really nice part for the cleric. But I feel like a lot of the time, the clerics might feel like they're not doing much. So I feel like yeah, they should have either added like divine lance in as one of the spells, or had the adventure more focus on undead for the cleric to participate more.
Yeah, but kobolds are so squishy.
They are so squishy. Hey, you can have like a little skeleton kobold.
No, that would just be rude.
Oh dear.
So as far as the information in the the hero's handbook, I'm sorry, I think that it does a good job of getting you to level 3. Um,
Yes.
I think it gives you a plethora of options as you level. Um, like for example, the fighter here at second level, it gives you what, 3, 4? It gives you 4 feats to choose from,
Yeah. So
which is a decent amount. Um,
yes, gives you a little tease of the kind of choices you can make. So yes, and
it,
in
it
terms of
even
yeah, get to the
suggests the 3 general feats that you should take at level 3: assurance, fleet, and toughness.
yeah, good ones.
Some of the best, actually.
Yeah. So they're not making you build a bad fighter.
No, I mean the rogue second level options: mobility, quick draw, unbalancing blow, only gets 3 to the fighter's 4, but um, I think it's going to be okay. I mean they get a lot of good stuff as they level. I mean it's actually quite a good selection of abilities for a beginner box.
It
Like,
is.
um,
I haven't trapped you too much.
I mean, can you just imagine when you hit third level as your rogue? I mean, you're picking one of 3 of these general feats. You're picking one of 3 of skill feats. I mean, there's 2 options you get to pick right out of the gate. Plus, you pick which skill you want to increase.
Yeah, you're already getting a lot of choice that you might not be used to from certain systems. And it's only a small amount of the ones you can actually get in Pathfinder.
So if you see all these little circled, gosh, I can't think of the word letters. Couldn't think of the word letters. I was like alphabets. If you look at that,
Doing great.
yeah, we're doing great. There is a different character sheet,
Yes.
which matches this up to what they're talking about, including the ABCDs of character creation: ancestry, background, class, and determine. And I do believe that this character sheet is much better than the standard character sheet
It
for
is.
the
It's a
game.
lot more clear. Obviously, one of the things is explicitly only for low level stuff. So like, there's only first and second level spells
Yep.
on the thing. But yeah, I think they have heard that yeah, the core character sheet is very tricky to read. So this is a lot nicer, a lot clearer, like a lot of like big sort of text, bright colors. It's a lot easier for me to read. I would be interested to hear a dyslexic person's view on it, because I know that was one of the issues, yeah, with the core one is so tricky to read if you've got any like if you're learning disabled. So I would be interested to hear a review on this from a dyslexic person, but I definitely feel like it's a lot more clear. And so yeah, I might be nicking a version of this for other versions, other issues.
I would like to add that with the PDF version, which is what we're reviewing here, you don't get a
Yes.
set of dice, obviously. But
Yep.
if you have the actual beginner box, which is a great thing to buy, even for
Yes.
experienced players, it comes with a set of dice, and the dice are the same color as they are here on the sheet. So you
Which
learn,
is brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
you learn that a D4 is not just the triangle caltrop, oh my god, worse than a Lego if you step on it die, but it's also the yellow one.
It's the yellow one. Yes. No, that's really good that they have it all matching up. That's a nice thought. So yeah, no, I think the little like accessories that come with this are great, because obviously one of the other things that does come with this is the player reference card, and I would just buy a pack of these. Like, you don't need to put anything else in. I would buy a pack of player reference cards. Like, these
I
are
mean,
so useful. Exactly the kind of thing you want to hand out to your players.
it only goes over like I don't know, a third, a fourth maybe of the total conditions, but just the ones that it goes over here are
It's
usually the
brilliant.
ones that
The
get,
most common.
yeah, they are the most common. It looks like,
Yeah.
um, except for dying. It doesn't have dying on it. It does have wounded. It doesn't have dying
Yeah.
yet.
It has
Um,
unconscious and wounded down there.
yeah.
But that does link you to the hero's handbook. But I will say the little like dying page it does link you to is a really good one in the hero's handbook. I feel like, yeah, again, they know this can be a thing that can be quite tricky, so they sort of lay it out all on one page with a nice little grave,
But
and they go
even
over everything really clearly.
but if you're new to Roll the Roll, we do stream actual live play games 3, 4, 5
Yes.
times a week, 6 times a week when we're full up. Obviously, this is December and we've cut back for the
It's
holidays.
Christmas.
But like a lot of these on your turn up here, a lot of these don't even get used by experienced players. I have never had an experienced player drop prone, for example.
Seriously,
Yeah, I've never had an experienced player do that.
not even get knocked down. Sure, I've been on the floor at some
Well,
point.
yeah, you've been on the floor, but they've never elected to drop down so that they could.
Ah, right, but you're still prone even if someone's knocked you down there.
Yep.
But yes, drop prone. Yeah, it's more for dropping behind walls and stuff. But yes, it's not one that's used as often.
You have to use that before you take cover if there is no cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can,
Which is not on here either. So I'm already, you know.
yeah.
The way
I
that crits are
would
handled,
appreciate the.
I like that it explains crits right here, rolling 20 or 1. It's a
Definitely,
totally
that's again. I
different.
think a lot of players check with me are like, wait, is that the thing? So it's nice to just have it there.
You know. So
And then it
really,
stresses that meet or exceed the DC for a success, because that's another confusion people have, where they don't know what happens when you meet. So.
you know. Anything else about the reference card there, Alice?
Nope, I think they're fantastic. Yeah, I would be happy to buy a pack of them if they ever release them, because yeah, they're brilliant.
So
Yeah,
this is the intro sheet. Obviously, it's going to tell you, to read and things, some things you want to know, and then it tells you what comes in the beginner box, which we will get to in a second. Most of this, like I said, it comes with 6 blank character sheets so that you can make your own characters. It does come with 4 of the iconic characters,
yes,
which I think are
which is
4 of the 3 of the most famous of the 4. I do believe that the sorcerer is more famous than the wizard, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah, and he's like a fun, grouchy looking old man. You're like, yeah, oh yeah, I want to play a cranky old wizard. I'm very happy to have Kara and Murziel in here, of course. So,
And
yes.
I do believe that the pre-gens tell you exactly what you get when you level up. So when you hit level 2, it already picks it out. I know that Kyra, which is the cleric, gets battle medicine at level 2, which is normally a feat you would pick to take, but they just kind of get it.
I believe for any of the clerics, it just gives you battle medicine in this. It just says at level 2 you get battle medicine, because it assumes that you're going to take that as the cleric. No, I really love the pre-gens. I love how they've actually filled them in kind of as if they were written in. I thought that was a really cute touch, where the like the style of the writing is as if somebody's actually written it all in. So, and it's nice to have these even if you're not using the pre-gens, because it gives you an idea of what a finished one should look like. So I really appreciate having the pre-gens in here, and obviously for people who are really struggle with making a character and just want one given to them, they're fantastic.
It also comes with the player pawns. Um,
Yes.
if you don't know what the player pawns are, they're like a cheap way to have miniatures at your table without them actually being, pewter or plastic or pre-painted or have to do all the work yourself. They come with these little plastic pogs here that they just kind of slide
Yep.
down in. You
Just
get
put
so
them on.
many of them.
Yep.
Um, this
No,
one
so I
only
think for
comes
the
with one large
physical,
base, but I think there's only one large creature. The owlbear? I think. There
um,
may be a gelatinous cube.
there's a couple of large creatures, but I don't think they're ever on the same page,
Yeah. Um,
because there's also like the ogre warriors and stuff that we get in the pawns.
and so here they are. There's a troll. Um,
Yep.
they uh, they come they're there. They're on nice thick cardboard stock when you get the main one. Um, I'm not necessarily sure that you would use these online unless you were building your
Yeah,
own tokens, where you could use the art, obviously, to make your own tokens. Um,
that's the
it
thing. I
also,
think this is something that's much better for the physical one, but for the physical version, it's fantastic to have these.
I
Like,
also
it saves
like
you so much.
the little pop out action tokens
Yes, that's
because you
really
can.
nice. So you can like almost have them in front of you and like count which ones
I
you're
think
using
that's
and stuff,
actually
and
what they're
spend them.
for.
Yes, so you can like spend them on a turn.
I
Everything.
think
So
it
yeah,
comes with enough for 4 players.
yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people do work better off visual cues, and that's not a bad thing. So having something where you're like, okay, yeah, like spend these two. Okay, what I've got left. Because goodness knows how many times I forget I've used a certain action on my turn and try to do something else. It's like, you can't do that. So yeah, being able to just count it out simply is really nice.
And
No,
I'm
and again,
assuming that they fit beautifully on the reference card, which also has them. At the start of your
Oh,
turn, regain
probably
your three
yes.
action
I
and one
assume so in the
reaction.
physical version. So you put them on the reference card and
Yep.
use them. That's really cute. I like that.
Yep.
But no, I again, I really appreciate all the little art we get for like the characters that we have. One thing I do wish is they weren't so explicitly gendered, because I think that's one of the good things of Paizo is they're always like, yeah, you get to pick sort of the gender and like pronouns of your character. You don't have to play a male or female character, and even if you do, they don't have to look anything. I wish they hadn't gendered the pawns. I wish they'd just been like a cleric human one, cleric human two, and it's not just like this is the male one. It's like this can be whatever you want them to be. So that's something I wish they hadn't done, having them so explicitly gendered, because I feel like that's something that Paizo is usually very good about. I thought that was a shame. So yeah.
Which ones are you talking about specifically?
All of the player tokens.
Oh, the player tokens.
Yes, the player tokens. So it's
I mean,
like
they
if you
are
pick
icon. Oh, I see what you mean. The
not the
ones that
iconics. No, no, no. The iconics I can appreciate have their names,
right.
but no, the just the base tokens. Where it's like if you're playing this, you are a elf male fighter, and it's like, well, this is what my elf female fighter looks like, or this is what my non-binary fighter looks like. Why does it have to say male on it, or why do I have to say female on them? I wish they hadn't gendered them and just been like fighter human one, fighter human two.
I see what
So
you're saying. Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I could
So
get
I think
behind that.
like
I
the
don't.
one,
I
yeah,
don't. I don't
I
think
don't
that
think
would
there
have
was a
changed
need
anything.
to put genders on. Was the main thing. Like the art is all great. There wasn't a need to put genders on. So
The art
that's
is
the only thing I
amazing.
have with them. The art is beautiful. I really didn't expect to have all this.
Yeah.
So it's really cool seeing all the new art for the characters. I think again they really provide a sort of inspiration for the kind of archetype of a character you're playing. They're very fitting into the archetypes, which I appreciate because it makes it easy to understand what you're playing. You're like, oh yes, this is a wizard, and you understand how it's very different from a fighter in their sort of their presence.
And then this also comes with. Wow. It also comes with a battle mat, a double-sided flip mat. It's going to have the level 1 and level 2 dungeons for the entire adventure on it. No need for a battle mat and wet erase markers. You don't have to draw it out yourself. You're not going to need graph paper, for that specific purpose. You're not going to have to hand draw this, and you don't have to play the combats out completely in your mind, which some of us old fellows remember doing all the time.
Yeah. Theater of the
And
mind.
we'll go over those in a second. And then the main thing is that you get like a 72-page hero's handbook, which of course goes over the ancestries, the backgrounds,
Mm.
the classes that you have, details a lot of the spells and items and equipment, a lot of the basic rules. And then, of course, there's the Dungeon Master's Guide, Game Master's Guide, I'm sorry, Game Master's Guide, which has the adventure in it, which Alice really wants to go over. She's like,
It's cool. I
um,
think it's one of the really draws of this box. It's a really nice little introduction.
but my main concern here is these maps. And if you look, I'm assuming that this is the battle map that you get, and it's cut off. It's like, I mean, it's not super bad. It's just cut off. As you can see, the
Yeah,
map here in the GM thing doesn't cut it off, but then the flip map that you got to lay down does. And I know that's like a small gripe, but if you've bought the obviously if you've bought the actual box
physical
and you
copy.
throw this out, it's real easy to say, well, you can't move off the map,
Yeah.
right? Like there's walls there, you can't move off the map, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. But when you throw it into a virtual tabletop, and of course, roll always uses Roll20. Um, if you bought this PDF, you extracted this file from your PDF, you turned it into a JPEG, you loaded it into Roll20. It's just not. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. But I'm very meticulous with maps, as Alice will tell you.
Yeah.
I'm very.
It'd be cool if they released a version that's more fitted for virtual tabletops. One thing I do appreciate is that they are trying to do more in there, because obviously this is meant to just be a physical box. Like, I think originally there wasn't even planned to be a PDF version of it, but
Yeah, I think
obviously
so. Yep.
changing times, and I think sort of trying to accommodate the fact that a lot of us can't play physically right now. But I think this wasn't always planned for that. So there's a couple of things where like the pawns as well are a lot trickier to use when you're doing it online. Like, this is built for physical play, but I do appreciate that they are trying to make it more accessible for virtual play. But there do need to be some adjustments,
But
and hopefully we'll see that more in the future.
I am going to shill real quick for Roll20 because I love them so much. Their version, if you buy it through them, it has a higher resolution map than you can yank out of
There you
this
go.
PDF. It's on the screen now. This is obviously the roll to roll account. You can see that it's not as bad. It's really good. And I mean, I like you zoom in 250%. There's no. I mean, you just can't even see edges. It looks crisp and clear, and it's good to go. Um,
So that's good that there is at least an online version of it.
Very good. Roll20. Mwah. Working with Paizo. Official Paizo Roll20 thing here. Definitely worth it. If you already own the PDF, you get a huge discount on getting the Roll20 version. However, if you buy the Roll20 version first, you get the entire PDF free, as far as I know, for most things. I'm not quite sure if the beginner
It does
box
look
is
weird, is
on
that
there.
right?
Well, I mean, I know it is for the AP books and the rule books. I just wonder if the beginner box is that way too. I would know. I get them both at the same time pretty much, so I don't know if one's giving me the other or. Oh, my DPI. No. Also be crazy. And you want to go over the adventure. What do you got for us
Yes.
there?
Well, I think this is absolutely fantastic. It's a really good little introduction. I like that, like each combat kind of tries to introduce something new as you go along. Like, you literally start out, fight some rats. There's nothing complicated. There is like, roll your initiative, roll your attacks, and everything. But then, like, the second one introduces the well, first we get the like getting down the cliff. So you're like, okay, now we have to do skill checks. This is another kind of a sort of encounter in a dungeon where you're trying to get through. Then you get the spiders, and you introduce like saving throws through the spiders. I really like how it slowly introduces things not only for the players but also for the GM. Because when you're GMing a fight and trying to keep loads of things in your mind at once, it can be very difficult. You know what I'm like with forgetting about like poison and everything. So it's good that they don't overwhelm the GM on the first fight and just like try and slowly introduce things, which I think is really good.
So something that they did here in the beginner box that they don't do in their regular APs. As you get to room 1, which is Hungry Rats here, you can see that there is an actual map of room 1 up there,
Yes.
next to it, where the rats are, where they need to start, and that kind of stuff. I have seen this done before from other publishers, and I know that the page count in APs is really tight. It's like super, super tight, but that helps GMs a lot.
Yes.
A
So it's
lot.
nice that they can have it in here because yeah, the amount of times I'm flipping between the map and the page is like, which room was that? So yeah, no, that is definitely a really nice thing. Where it's just like, here's what it is.
It is really nice. And once again, if you purchase these on the virtual tabletop of your choice, like I said, we prefer and we use Roll20. These enemies will be on the map for you. You can see them where they're supposed to
Yes,
be
they'll tend to place them.
most of the time. I mean, humans are human; they do make mistakes, but for the most part, it's all good to go. Um, but that little picture is everything. That's
Yes,
how I
no, I
design
think
encounters, by
again,
the way.
if I had to say the best thing about like this whole beginner box is the clarity of it all,
Yeah.
which I think is one of the most necessary things for beginners. I think it's so clear on things, which is just fantastic.
But like I'm saying, when I design my own homebrew or my own adventures, this is how I do it. Like every combat, I
Yeah,
draw up like that. I start with a map, I put everything on it, and then I build around it how I want it to
yeah,
go. Um, and
yeah.
so if somebody else were to pick up some of my own written stuff, they would look at that and be like, oh, I know all about this. It's a bunch of kobolds with carts, being pulled by giant weasels.
That
You know,
sounds great.
yeah.
They've got the cursed weasel bag. That's the bag of weasels. I love that thing. Oh dear.
It
But no, and then
yeah. There's a big combat guide right here. Nice big beautiful green page.
yes, again, I love these big pages where it just like focuses on one thing and is really clear. Because then if you need to look at something, you just go to this page and this goes over everything about it. And this is really clear about how to do combat.
And then, like Alice was talking about, where you get to drop into the darkness. Once again, the
Yeah.
map is here. Number 2 is clearly displayed on the map. You know exactly what
Mhm.
you're looking at, where you're supposed to be, and what you're supposed to be doing there. It's explaining, exploring. Does it get into exploration activities yet? I don't think so.
Don't believe so.
It does talk about light, though, which is important considering your humans
Yes.
can't see. And you have
Yes, we do
3 of
have.
them.
Everyone's played humans.
And 1 low light, so none of them can see in the dark.
Somebody might have built themselves a dwarf, though.
They can see in the
Silly
dark.
boy.
Yeah, dark
Yes.
vision is the most overpowered ability in all of Pathfinder.
It's really nice. And it's great as a GM when your entire party has dark vision because you're like, I'm just not going to bother talking about the light conditions. They're like, you guys can see everything.
Once again, we get to number 3, the spider's web. I do believe it introduces range strikes. It's going to introduce saving
Yes.
throws. It introduces a few conditions. It also introduces, and you were talking to me about this not being here earlier, but it actually introduces a skill system to completely avoid the entire encounter.
That's true. I was talking about, yeah, I think it's a shame
Diplomacy
there's not
specifically, but
diplomatic encounters, but yes, there is sort of ways that you are rewarded for avoiding encounters here, mostly by, yeah, sneaking past the web, which I feel like some parties will definitely try to do because you see a web and you're like, nope, nope, nope. I feel like it's not too meta for your heroes to understand that webs mean spiders and to want to avoid that.
I think in the world of Galarian, which is where Pathfinder is based in, I think the knowledge that there are giant spiders is probably
Because
extremely common.
very common. If you're in a cave and there is a web, get out.
Well, I mean the web is
Don't
huge
touch the
too.
web.
This thing's like 60 feet or 45 feet or
Ooh.
something like that long. I
Yeah,
mean they're
no,
huge.
can't do it. Can't do it. Oh.
Um, yeah. 4 is the
No,
barricade.
yes. And through the barricade is where we get to the undead area. So again, like I said before, like you don't have to go through this area with the barricade. So this is an entirely optional area, which seems odd to me for the cleric.
This is where I would have liked to have had sort of a part in here that kind of talks about how to, when you're running this encounter at the barricade, to kind of give like a sense of dread or like an eerie silence, or just like the hairs on the back of your neck standing up.
Yeah,
I
adding some
don't.
like environment,
Yeah.
atmospheric stuff.
It would have been nice if that was there for the beginner box, but those are things that game masters come into many years sometimes into doing the job.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it does. I mean, it does do a good job of kind of like pulling you in there with the blue flame. I think.
Yeah. And I think I think this fight can be pretty difficult, especially if you've alerted them beforehand. I do think that if you do go to this area, the cloak does get to shine, which I do appreciate that there is at least this area. If you do go here, the cleric gets to be like, oh, right, this is what I'm really good at. Other than just
Uh,
patching up your allies.
there's a forgotten shrine here, and I do believe this is one of the puzzles.
Well, this one's not necessarily a puzzle.
Puzzle.
This is almost more a sort of test of fortitude. There is the puzzle later, the Abadarian one, but yeah, we get two god shrines in here, and I think it's interesting that they're neither of the gods they present to you in the hero's handbook, so your characters explicitly won't worship them. Which I think is kind of nice because then you have to like do tests, and it's not just like, oh yeah, my character knows this. It's like, no, you have to like do religion checks and see if you know this, and try and please them. So yeah, because obviously the ones actually presented as possibilities in the Hero's Handbook are Serenray, Desna, and Torag. Like they have one for each of the good alignments, but it does assume you're good as the cleric, because again, that's often the role of the cleric, though not always. A chaotic neutral cleric can be very fun. But yes, but it's about the archetype. And I like that they sort of do different ones in here. It's also kind of like what I was saying before about teasing the other options. I think like this is like a cool way to do it, where they're like, yeah, here's another god in the world. And people are like, oh, can my character worship them? And you're like, yes, they can. In the actual like wide version of the game, you can worship this stranger nature god or the wealth god. So I like them as like little introductions to some of the lore in cute little tests.
It's a very risk reward room, I think.
Yes, very. It's very much like, will you drink it? And yeah, I feel like it's almost sort of a character test, which I like. I feel like it's almost a way where you can decide kind of would your character do that. So yeah, I like that. I think it
So
provides something people. Well, I don't think it was necessary in this dungeon, but I'm really glad they added it. I think that's a really cute thing.
the next encounter there, the abandoned storeroom, I believe now is when it
Oh, there's
first.
candles.
Yeah, it also is where you first start talking about flanking. Obviously, a
Yes.
new GM that picks this up has probably read in, probably knows what flanking is before now. But on the off chance that everybody just picked it up and they were doing it room by room without pre-studying or anything,
Yeah.
the game does now introduce what flanking is. I think you could have a great moment where the group is like, "Oh my God, if we knew about flanking on the rats, that would have been so much easier."
Yeah. But now they're like suddenly get something with tactics, and they can learn from them. Like, when they surround us, that's trickier. We'll do that to them.
I
So it provides an
believe
sort of organic learning experience.
I also believe this is the first instance in the adventure where specific skills lead to treasure gain.
Yes, so you get your thievery. So again, this is a really nice place for the rogue to shine, where you're like the only way you can get this through thievery or athletics if you have your fighter. So that gives a couple of opportunities for them to try and shine. But yes, but this is one bit where I do wish like there's not even a suggestion of if the heroes try to talk to the kobolds, like do this, or like, oh, but they're really aggressive and after a little bit they fight. It assumes full stop that the heroes do not even try. That there is no conversation, and I think that's a shame. Because I think, well, a lot of people just want to go in and hit the kobolds, and that's cool if that's how your party wants to play it. Some parties are playing like a redeemer and a cleric of Serenray and everything, and it's like, and they want to try and like talk down the kobolds. And I wish there was just like even a little box talking about that.
I mean, I'll go deep into kobolds here, kobold war. That's probably not explained in this beginner's box, but they legitimately think they are dragons.
Yes.
So I'm assuming they attack without diplomacy because they don't want you to get the treasure that they're trying to get.
A lot of dragons will be diplomatic though, even some of the chromatics.
It's because they aren't afraid of humans
Yeah.
or humanoids. They're just like, yeah, you're.
Because I will say another big thing about kobolds is they tend to be very submissive if they think it will help them survive.
Yep.
So a party who intimidates them could get them to step down because they are survivalists above all else.
You're right.
So I
This
think
would have
that
been
could
a
be an
this would
interesting
have
thing.
been a good place for coerce.
Intimidation. Yeah,
Yep, of
because
course.
if you're like, hey, we're stronger than you, you should just what we say. Kobolds will respond to that. So
I
yeah, so
I
I think
believe
that
that's
would have been an interesting.
it's probably not an option because you can't coerce more than one target at such a low level.
Yes, but you could have like got one of them to like escape
Hmm.
and fought the others. Like then get rewarded for using your intimidation by only having to fight three. So yeah, so I just think that would be a really cute option to include to have a little bit more like there's not only one direction you have to go with this. It's not only hitty hitty.
We are going to introduce our first simple trap
Yes.
in the hallway. There are two types of traps, and simple traps are pretty easy. Um,
Yeah.
they have a perception check you have to meet in order to find them. You don't actually, to the best of my knowledge, you don't get a free check for that unless you are using a specific exploration action.
Unless you explicitly say I'm looking for
I'm
traps, yeah.
searching.
Kind of
I'm
thing.
searching.
Yeah.
I'm using the
Yeah.
search action. Um,
Then the GM will roll one for
but
you.
once again, I don't know if this goes in depth over exploration activities. It might be a more intermediate or longer campaign activity. So here you're probably letting them roll. Yeah, it says when the heroes first enter the hallway, ask each player to roll a perception check. If anyone gets a
There
20
you
or
go.
higher.
So
Um, but yeah, it's pretty easy when you step on certain squares. Boulders come falling down. People take bludgeoning damage, and then they feel bad.
now what I was surprised later on, there is actually a complex hazard. I didn't expect that to be in the beginner box.
Complex hazard are one of the hardest things for me
Literally.
to get down how they work because
Yeah.
they're literally traps that act on every turn of combat and do specific things and have initiative modifiers and
Yeah. So I was really surprised there was a complex hazard in here. So yeah,
so
but
here's your
there isn't.
puzzle
But
room you
I'm
wanted to
glad we
talk
start with
about.
a simple trip. Yes, I adore this. Again, I'm glad this is sort of a break from just fighting because again, some parties love fighting and that's great, but sometimes people want a puzzle dungeon and it's like it's kind of another quintessential part of the genre in a way. And I think this is a really cute little one. Again, I love that it's tied into the lore that you introduce Abadar, the god of money. Um, but no, this little puzzle I tried out with my sister, where you have like the idea is that you have a certain amount of coins and have to work out which one's fake. I won't go into all of it so I don't spoil it for people to get the solution. But she was struggling with she was getting sort of part way there but didn't get the full solution. I wanted to kind of get an idea if it was actually really easy or not, but no, but she really had to think about it. And I think this is a really cute little puzzle. And again, I feel like physically, like you could use like those little tokens of like even just use like the turn tokens and have them actually in your hands and the GM like plays the statue and that they can try and work it out by using that. I think there's really cute ways you can really do that physically as well. Obviously, virtually that's a bit trickier, but I think you can still do it through description. So that's probably one of my favorite rooms. It's a really cute little puzzle, and yeah, I like that one a lot.
I would like to point out the DC 10 religion skill check here.
Yeah,
And your cleric is probably +7 to
yeah,
religion. So that just shows you where the DCs are. You only need a 3
yeah.
on a D20. You have a 10% chance to not know who.
To know
Well,
who Abadar is,
you
yeah.
have a 5% chance to be like, I don't know, and you have a 5% chance to be like, that's Asmodeus, the devil god, um, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the main line 20 gods or deities or super alien beings, whatever we're calling them today, um, are pretty well known. They're pretty common knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's
I
like
don't even
so
I
this
don't
is
even require rolls a lot of time for my players when they come across those specific deities,
the core
unless it's
20. Yes.
yeah, unless it's something like really old, like yeah, this is a a statue of Desna as she was portrayed 400 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's a
So it
different
was
story.
not
But
one we recognize yet.
yeah, but if you walk into a room with a bunch of stained glass windows and they've got the purple spiral, yeah, you're kind of like yeah, that's for asthma.
Yeah.
Um, so I like the low DC here because even the untrained people, they still have a 55% chance to get it, even if you're
Yeah.
plus nothing.
You
You
go, I
only
don't
need
know religion. You're like, oh well, yeah, I know Abadar. He's like the bank guy.
and as you see, Abadar here, that tells you that room 10 is the Vault of Abadar, which
Yes.
I'm assuming, which I am assuming, as someone who plays this game quite religiously, that there's probably a lot of treasure in that room.
There is, and even more
Oh,
interestingly, there's a control mechanism for a trap in the next room, which is
oh,
currently off, but you can turn it on
oh. And
if you want to be fighting.
does that have some kind of benefit for you later?
Yes, because the kobolds think the trap is off,
Oh my
so they
goodness.
will run into the trap.
So now you can make the GM fight himself,
We're gonna roll against ourselves, the funnest part.
which is
So,
always fun.
so I think
Always fun.
it's a cool as well because again, it's not a straight up buff because obviously you could end up setting off the trap as well. It's sort of something that can give you an advantage, quite tactical, which I think is a really cool little thing to consider. Again, I like that they've got things that involve choices because
And I mean
you can choose
it's a
not to
pretty
activate
rough
anything.
trap.
It is, yeah.
Oof.
If you
D8
get
plus 4 is a
kobolds to run
lot.
into it.
Oof. But once again, looking at the little map that they give us a preview of up here, you can see where the kobolds should be when you start this encounter. You come through that southern door. The dotted lines there for the game master show you exactly where, once people
Trap
step.
area.
One of the hardest things about GMing is that you have to, and this in the previous room kind of start to get you there, if you're not already there, about not metagaming yourself. Because you see where the trap is, but if it's been armed by the
Yep.
players, those kobolds still don't know where that trap is.
Yep. So they need to
So
charge right in.
yeah, so you might be in a
They're
situation
like,
to where
they
you're
go all the
like,
way round.
yeah, they start going all the way around.
It's like,
That's not
why?
good. So I think this is a good way to give some kind of a special, sort of metagamey teaching,
Yeah.
tool to beginning game
Yeah.
masters.
And I feel like a good thing to remember is one of the things this whole Game Masters book started with that was literally in bold that I really appreciate. That one of the early things that was stressed is that you are not playing against the other players. This is a game where everyone wins if everyone has a fun time. Like it makes it very clear early on the Game Master Guide, this is not GM versus players. This is a collaborative game. The point is everyone has a good time.
And every
And
tabletop RPG is that.
yeah,
Every
like
tabletop RPG is that, and more of them need to say it because
yeah. The
you're
point is you are all playing together.
consider yourself the judge or the referee, right? Whenever the
Yeah,
rules come into question and you're like, what do I do, A, B, or C, or there's no rule at all, it is your job to make a fair ruling.
yeah. You
um,
adjudicate.
yep, to keep the game going. um, and as an experienced GM who's been doing this for 30 years plus now, you should always side with your players.
Yeah.
Like when you have to make a ruling out of the dark, like unless it's like obvious to you, you're like,
Yeah,
no,
if
you.
somebody's like trying to play you and stuff, it's different. They're
But
like,
for the
oh, can
most
I do
part,
this? Like, these are parts where it's like, that's not the rules, but in this moment, that would be hysterical. And you're just like, yeah, do it.
or it'd be really
Just,
cool,
yeah,
or you can,
literally.
or you can just tell by the look in your player's eye that
That
if
is
they
going to
can
be
do
great.
it, they're going to
Yeah,
be happy. Like it'll
yeah.
be something they talk about forever.
It's like, don't be afraid of the rule of cool. It's like, the important thing is that you're all having fun. And I'm glad that they stress that. Like, they literally bold it all.
And I mean, man, we got a big kobold here. It's pretty beefy. 19 armor class at first level. It's pretty rough.
Yes, this is like your first little boss. It's cool, the Kobold Trapmaster.
There's
Um, And the cool thing as well is that we get from them one of the first indications of the dragon, because you get the necklace with the part of the dragon egg
yep.
on it. So there's sort of this part here where you're like, what's this? And like how it sort of slowly indicates you towards it.
And we won't talk too much about the egg. Just think Game of Thrones. You've seen dragon
Yeah.
eggs before, people.
You know what happens when you've got a dragon egg.
And here again, we've got
You
another
have an omelette.
beautiful, beautiful map.
Yeah.
Who is the artist that did these maps? I will look that up
Like,
before we're
I
done
don't
here.
know, yes.
But
But
these
whoever it
are
was, a very good job.
insanely good maps. So
I
as you
will say,
can see,
I panicked when I first saw this map because of room 17. I was like, what on earth? Because I didn't realise that's two separate placements of the kobolds depending on what you've done. I thought they were like all the kobolds you had to fight.
And we will talk
Like,
about that when we get to room 17. As you can
yeah,
see,
but I
some
was
of
like,
them have
what?
yellow borders, some have more black borders there, darker borders. But room 12 here, as you can see,
Yep,
well, if we go up and look at the last
got a
page, you'll
little
see
barricade.
the little stairs that go down that show you coming out here. And once again, here's the little picture. God, the pictures are worth so much, man. I don't know. That little picture can replace thousands of words, man.
Yeah.
I feel like.
No, I love them. I think it's really good. And again, I can understand why they can't do it in AP, but I'm glad they could do it here.
I like how the smelly barricade here, you get to make perception checks. It tells you what happens on a 10 or higher, but if you also get a 20, this extra stuff happens. That's just, I mean, it's not saying it here, but we've learned about it. The 10 plus 10 minus 10, critical
Yeah.
success, critical failure.
Everyone will
This
have
is
it on their player
obviously,
cards.
yep, this is clearly a success and critical success here, written a different way. More kobolds.
And you get an introduction of like you doing hidden and getting someone flat-footed when you use a hidden strike with these kobolds.
Are these ones hidden here?
Yes.
Oh, while they're hidden, yeah. Yeah, that can be rough. Hidden's good. Always be hidden. If you can be hidden, be hidden. We get to
Well,
the
maybe
sog.
not if you're the tank.
It's still good to be hidden if you're the tank,
It depends on if your wizard is hidden.
I guess. Your wizard should be invisible, so.
Yeah, but if they're not, you need to go save their ass.
So as you can see here, it looks like there are actually two directions to go off of this room. So you could end
Yeah.
up going to the higher level part before you go to... higher level is probably not the right word. It looks like you can circumvent 3 rooms just by not going that direction and still finish
Yeah.
this adventure.
But you would miss out on some cool buffs.
Yeah, the soggy crossroads here. This is something that you'll begin to use as an experienced GM where you describe things and it looks like there should be an encounter there, or players feel like there's going to be an encounter
Yeah,
there,
like...
or players think that they're supposed to do something there, and all you're really doing is like setting the mood or the environment or
they start to
everything.
not trust everything. They're like, I don't step in the water. There's something in there.
Kind of to lead them in. It's a really good thing. I'm glad that we have rooms like this in the beginner box because a lot of things don't do that. And a lot of GMs don't realize that not every single room has to be jam-packed with all kinds of crazy stuff to interact with. Monsters or traps or treasure or whatever.
Yeah.
There can be empty rooms.
It just is. Yeah.
We're going to end up at the Elements of Chaos.
This is cute.
She thinks it's cute. I know there's a Cinder Rat here.
That's cute. Yeah. And we get an introduction to smoke and concealed creatures and persistent damage here. Again, I really like how it slowly introduces concepts.
Persistent damage is rough. It's good. It's scary. Really, that is the scariest type of damage.
But I think one of the best things here is they do fire damage and there's a big pool of water.
Yep.
And it says, like, if you dive into the pool of water, you're fine. So I do like that there is an easy way to get rid of it that doesn't involve a check.
It does explain the flat check here.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty hard roll. You have to roll a 15 or higher for the flames to go out on their own.
Yeah.
Or obviously, you can jump into the water.
Yep, using the prone condition. So that is a way you could be like, hey, if you use that drop prone action. So that's why it's on the player card.
It does introduce concepts that do go away though, like the one action pat yourself to put out the flames.
Yeah.
Further into the game, rules wise, that would be a 2-action activity and requires a skill check.
Yeah.
Unless the game master puts it in, which the game master did put it in here, that's a thing. So this is still by the rules. It's just not something that always exists.
Yeah. One thing I often do is let a player assisting another only use one action, because I feel like I don't want to punish players for helping each other. and having to use up so many turns. So I do often buff that a bit. So I'm glad they use a slightly buffed version here. Because yeah,
I am a little bit different. I don't want to give
yeah,
a helping player 3 chances
fair.
to stall it. So the 2-action thing is usually my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see here, the Cinder Rat is an elemental, which means it's probably not a beast at all. Probably
Ooh,
not.
yeah.
So I mean, what does that add? I wonder. I don't know. You'll have to buy the beginner box and run through it to find
but,
out what that
but then
means.
this is another cute little bit. Again, I really love all these little like other extras they put in the dungeon, so it's not just here kobold kill kobold. So they have these little orbs, the elements, and you can like gain little boons from them. It's almost like with Extinction Curse, but on a like smaller level, where you get these little powers from these orbs.
Uh,
Um,
it also
you can
low key teaches you falling damage.
yes.
It sure does.
That's a sneaky way to do it.
These things. Uh, Zolgaths. Alice knows all about fighting Zolgaths.
Oh,
If
so
you
much.
if you like fighting Zolgaths or running Zolgaths, please go
Yeah,
get
if
the
you enjoy the
Extinction Curse
Zolgathan
AP
chapter,
because you will be Zolgathed out real quick.
yeah, just have a character who's chopped their nose off. It'll be great.
Yep. Yep.
These things stink.
Um,
And that's explained. I'm glad that's explained because sometimes you do miss like auras and stuff. That can be a tricky thing with creatures. So like when it's talking about like the horrid stench, they have to like do a fortitude save. So again, they make it very clear straight away the main thing you need to be aware of with these creatures, which I'm really glad of.
and an aura is basically an effect that is always active unless they have a
Yeah,
way to turn it off. And it activates on your character when you first encounter that aura through movement or them moving into you, or it's one of the few things that that happen off a turn, right? Like
yeah.
normally things are the beginning of your turn, the end of your turn, you know, when you first see or something like that. These are just really, oh well, now you're in the now you
Aura.
need to make
Yep,
a
there.
check.
Yeah.
Make a check, yeah. Doesn't
Now
matter
the
what
one
it
thing I
is.
don't like in this room is the path to the Darklands. I feel like they shouldn't have put that in or should have it blocked off. Because, like, if I was a new player and there's this other path, I want to go down it. And it feels really weird to be just like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that. It's like, why is it there? This feels like something that should not be there if it's not important. Because it feels like it should be important. You're like, oh, obviously this is going to come up. And it doesn't.
I mean,
It's completely irrelevant.
I haven't gotten my my copy of the next part.
Troubles in Atari.
Yep.
So you think that might have something to...
This could move down further.
It could.
It could be
That's
one of the
fair.
3 or 4 adventures that are presented there. Um,
But right
I
now,
think
it feels really odd.
I think that uh, I think there's kind of like a metagamey kind of thing that players need to. This teaches another lesson metagamey wise, right? Like when you play a prepared adventure,
Yeah.
they're kind of on rails. I don't want to say they're railroaded. That's a very bad term, but they are on rails. Like there are
Yeah.
specific things that are planned out for you to do, and this is
Yeah.
one of those instances
But I
where.
think this is an instance where a character might think they are supposed to go down there,
But
where there's some kind of treasure they'll get if they go down there, and there's literally nothing. You literally like are forced to turn them back.
a
It
perceptive player will know
yeah.
there's only one flip mat, and they've already been everywhere on the other side. So clearly, there must not be anywhere to go.
I wish that was like caved in or something.
No,
Because I do
I kind of like that it's open. I do wish that they had a part here. Do they say anything about?
about what?
I mean, it does say that after an hour of travel down through
Yeah.
here, that the DM is supposed to, or the game master is supposed to tell them things about that. And
Yeah.
the Darklands are for more experienced adventurers. I do wish that they had included a couple of ways that a game master can steer someone away from something without
Yes.
being metagamey,
Showing.
right?
Yeah.
That would have been something that could have, and they could have
Yeah.
had word count at this point, right? Could have just had to do with page count. I mean, after all, they
Yeah.
did put these beautiful pictures here. Like I said, so the maps are in this this PDF 4 times or 3 or 4 times already. Broken wall. I mean, I guess this not a way to get through the other wall?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
So this is a way you
If
can
you're
get through with
if you're
athletics.
particularly athletic, you might be able to avoid some of those other encounters on the other side, or come at them from behind.
Yes, I think
Really
that's the
make
big
your
thing.
GM wonder what he's supposed to do, or she. Room 16 is the mermaid fountain, and that is lovely art. Like on the
It's
flip
really
mat,
cool, isn't it? Yeah.
that's just beautiful.
My character would walk right into that. Like, and then
And
yeah, this is our complex hazard.
this is your
Yeah.
complex hazard. And with complex hazard, I don't know why it has a notice DC here because I'm pretty sure complex hazard. Now I could be wrong. I didn't think there was a notice DC for these because I think it should be rolling initiative.
They also have initiative,
Yeah.
but I think that might be like just before to see if you can spot
Well,
that
it's
it's a
10
trap.
plus 10. So I mean the perception check is the right thing. The
Yeah.
perception DC there would be 20. Once again, you can use thievery for this. That's the bread and butter of rogues mostly. There are other classes that can do it. I mean, any class can do it if you're trained in thievery, obviously, but
Yep.
certain classes are just better at it. The rogue is the best at it. I think investigator, which is a very advanced class, would not recommend for new players at all, at all. But yeah,
And we get the introduction of hardness of items here as well.
yes, we do get hardness. We get. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of hit points here, so. Hardness, basically you ignore any damage roll that is equal to or less than its hardness.
Yeah.
It's like
It
hitting
basically
a,
takes away with any damage roll. It takes away the hardness before any damage actually
yep,
applies.
regardless of the damage type. There may be
So
exceptions with specific materials.
yeah,
The one that
you
comes
might
to
have something
mind
that
is
says this
adamantite.
ignores hardness,
Yep.
or 5 of the object's hardness. So yeah.
So as you see, complex traps have a routine. It's right there. On their turn, it says it uses one action to, I guess, use its little thing. It says to roll a d10, look it up, and do
Instead of
that.
water blasting.
Um,
Yeah.
and apparently this one only gets one action. And with complex traps, they can get one action, 2, 3, 4. I think I've actually seen one drawn up with 6 actions per routine that loses one as it goes. So the next round it would get 5, and the next round it would get 4.
Yeah.
Complex traps and hazards are great for traps and natural hazards like avalanches
Escaping a
and
volcano, yeah.
yep, really good. Apparently you can loot the fountain. There's probably some treasure in there.
Yeah, I think people throw coins in it.
Yeah,
So.
I think you should be very cautious if you're going to try and pick those coins. That's all I'm saying. We're going to move on to fighting more kobolds, and this is the one where they can be in either one group or another. It looks like they're alerted or not alerted.
Yep.
So if they don't know you're coming, obviously it looks like 3 are at the table eating, 2 are sleeping. But if they know you're coming, all 5 are
sleeping.
right there. Is there a third one? Oh, there is, way up there.
Yes,
I see.
up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, these 2 are like cuddling up. This one's all alone. Poor thing.
Oh, they're.
Yeah. Yes. They kicked him out of that room so they could cuddle up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely cuddling.
Yeah. Well, innocent kobold snuggles.
This is where they introduce like actions that things can take that are not normally just spoken out of.
Yes, I love this because again, like I love how the kobolds are used to teach the players what they can do. Because like earlier the kobolds introduced flanking, because again these are like intelligent enemies, and here yeah they introduce using your environment to attack. I love that they sort of introduce that through. Here's what the enemies can do, and you're like, well, can I do that? And it's like, sure. What do you want to do, and we'll work through it. So I love it.
But these are listed unconventional tactics, right? That Paizo has given you as a game master to use. But as a game master, there are going to come times where players are going to want to do something, and the rules do not cover it. And this is a good, like a good
Template.
system, good
Yeah.
gateway to help you figure out what they should do.
Yeah,
Plus ones,
this is the kind of thing you could provide.
yeah, like the bed cover giving a +1 circumstance
Yeah.
bonus to armor class from hiding behind the bed mats. You know, there are actual rules for taking cover.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like take cover, but
Yeah.
it's worded in a different way and gives a lesser bonus.
Yeah.
Food fight, obviously, there are specific rules for using non-weapons as weapons, but these are very easy.
Yeah. But this is like something that doesn't deal damage and instead
Yep.
is like stinky and so makes it so that you're a bit like disorientated. Again, I like that it's like, hey, you can do different things. But I really appreciate that it does use specific examples because then again it provides a template for a GM to be like, oh yeah, when they did this kind of thing before, that was like a +1 to this or a -1 to that, or this makes something slippery, and it's like so it gives very clear examples so the GM can be like, oh right, yeah, like that.
And here's another little thing as a
We get a
GM,
surrender.
but food fight, right? It says here that you roll a d20 with a +5 to hit. If it hits, it doesn't deal damage, but the target takes a -1 status penalty to d20
Yeah.
rolls. So even though it doesn't say it, you could extrapolate from this particular set of rules and the things you were taught before that if the kobold throwing the food hits your armor class by 10 or more, you could increase that status penalty to -2.
Yes. You can be like,
Or,
this is a
or
critical.
if the
Or they
kobold
do
fails
damage
his
and they.
attack by 10 or more and critically fails, maybe he drops the food on himself and it gets in
Yeah,
his
makes
eyes
himself
and now
stinky.
he's got
Yeah.
a -1 status penalty. Like, it's there. The +10, -10 is one of the best rules that I've ever seen in any RPG, and I
It's
stand
so
by
good,
that.
honestly. Anybody is like, why Pathfinder 2 here? It's like 3 action roll +10, -10. Massive amount of options, but it's 3 of the core things that's brilliant about it. Because it really makes it impactful, so it's not just like, oh yeah, I win really good when you roll a really high number, but not a nat 20. You just kind of make jokes about, oh yeah. It's like, no, that actually means something. So having high numbers and low numbers actually means something. I love it, yeah. But that's getting to other stuff. But here we do actually have a kobold surrender. This is when we can actually do some diplomacy. We couldn't have done it before, but all the poor kobolds, but we do get one. I do love that he tries to like get gold from you, which is hysterical.
She.
But
She.
he,
I don't know. Oh, the leader is a she.
yes, but the shitty little kobold who surrenders is a he.
Aw, poor guy.
Bless his little heart, yeah. But I love it. Like it does, like say you can use diplomacy or intimidation, get some information out of him, which is great. It doesn't say what happens then.
Nope.
It's just kind of like,
I
is
assume
he
if they
okay?
surrender, you let them go.
Yeah,
I assume. You
kick
will
them up to
notice
retirement.
that the game has done everything for you. There are two ways for leveling up in Pathfinder. This one combines both of them so that you get the same
Yep.
kind of experience. Um, it if you count up the experience points you've been awarded, obviously you are going to get the amount that you need to get here if you've done everything. If you haven't done everything and you still get here, you still level up. That's because there
It's
is
a milestone.
milestones,
Yeah.
which are my preferred way to play
Yeah.
tabletop RPGs. We do use experience in Extinction Curse because sometimes they're able to make a level, a couple of encounters before, and it's just kind of funny to watch them stomp an encounter because they're a level higher than they need to be.
Because
But
we
they,
explore every single room.
but they have actually wandered into an encounter at too low of a level, and they got their, yeah, they didn't have a good day.
No.
So at this point in the adventure, you would level up. Obviously, the adventure is not done because we haven't explored every area of the map.
No.
But it tells you what happens. You increase your maximum hit points, but you also don't get to raise your hit points to that maximum. And I see a lot of people get this wrong. When you gain a level, your maximum hit points go up, but your current hit points do not.
Yep.
You have to heal or rest into those hit points.
Although, yeah, obviously, if you're going leveling up like during a rest encounter, then you can just put yourself to max things. If you're like, oh yeah, you'll go to bed, when you wake up, you're all going to be this level. Then you can just put yourself up to max. It's like,
Yep.
but
Obviously, all of your trained or expert level skills and abilities go up by +1, including your armor class, your saving throws, your perception, all your skills. Um, and then, of
again,
course, you
I'm
gain
glad
new
it
abilities.
includes all of this because some people again are like, wait, everything, every level. So
Yep.
I'm glad it explicitly says, and it says, yeah, don't increase things that you're not trained or expert in. Again, just the clarity in this is brilliant.
And then, of course, if you're playing the pre-gens, they have a
They do all,
specific
yeah,
route that they take when they level that just tells you what they get, so that you can just keep playing. Um,
yep,
if you're slower or you made your own characters or whatever, this is where you would get to make the choices for your second level stuff. Um, Normally, I'm assuming that this adventure
yeah.
goes on from here. It doesn't expect you to like stop here, but
No, you can,
yep,
but
you can go up, and
yeah,
relate the information to the quest giver. And
it does have some stuff like if you don't deal with the dragon, sort of you can. It says like later on you could like have it so that the dragon is now terrorizing the area. And have like a later adventure.
so it does say here, um, if you're second level when you do this, it tells you how much experience you get, which is 100 XP. But if you're still level 1, you gain a bonus 40 XP. Um, and that's fine. Um, the way encounter building works, and obviously some of this is covered in this beginner box building encounters, because you get a plethora of monsters that are not in this adventure to play around with. Like,
Yes.
it expects you to make up your own stuff.
It
Um,
sort of gives you some ideas of certain little adventures you can do and sort of gives you monsters for them.
the standard rule, I believe, is that if you're lower level than the encounter's budget, no, no, no. This is right. If you have players that are not the same level, which you should not do, you absolutely should not have players of differing levels playing in the same game. I don't
No,
care if your
it's
friend
not fun.
Fred only shows up once every 4 games.
Yeah.
He needs to be the same level, because it's just deadly to be off level. But
Yeah.
if you're one of those masochist, sadist kind of game masters, players, if somebody is lower level than the rest of the group, they actually get double experience until they catch up in level.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be behind level like.
Very long.
Yeah. Anyway, they say fighting the boss here, so as you can imagine, this is probably a pretty rough encounter. Not that bad, now that I'm looking at it. Oh, he's got
She
wizard
looks cool.
spells. Oh,
She's got this like
never
cool
mind,
little
he's got
crown.
wizard spells.
But yeah,
She's got
this
wizard
one's the
spells.
lady. She's got this cool ass like bone crown on. It's great.
I mean, she's got
Volgran.
3 magic missile spells. Like,
She
what?
does, and I think it explicitly says she like uses them because
Yeah.
again, it tells you like
Yeah.
how to like run the enemies, which is always appreciated.
A very hard fight if they haven't reached second level. I believe it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The magic missiles are gonna take you down quick.
And then we have the coup d'etat, the mushroom grotto.
Yes. I love this because it's like it's the thing, it's like if you're playing like a like TTRPG of this style, you're here to fight dragons. In the end, it's like it's one of the big draws of these kind of games is the dragons. Everyone loves a good dragon, so having it like introduce it, have a big like dragon fight, I love because it's like this is the fantasy. This is what everyone's in for. If you're trying to get somebody to fall in love with the game, show them the dragons. So I'm really glad we get the dragons.
A dragon is not an easy encounter by any stretch of the imagination. Aside from a level 2 fighter here, you may not hit very often when you swing at this thing.
No.
That's because fighters fight, and everyone else wishes they could fight like the fighter does. But I mean,
so you'll have to use the tactics that the
yeah,
kobolds
flanking, for
yeah.
example, that the kobolds taught you.
Yeah, and using
like
the
that.
environment. Maybe you're like, oh, I chopped down the mushroom that the dragon is standing on. And the GM's like, okay, roll and we'll see what happens.
Roll and we'll see what happens. Famous last words.
Yeah, that's.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
I
it's
think
gonna
it's
tell
cool.
you this is the first time that it's going to legitimately use flight. I think on an enemy.
Yeah.
I do believe that there is a kind of like a little bonus thing you can get where maybe you can fly a little
Yes,
bit.
from the wind
Well,
orb
let's not
earlier
ruin
on.
it. Let's not ruin it.
Sorry.
It's going to
It's
explain
cool
breath
though.
weapons.
No, I feel like you can use a lot of the things you've learned or got in the dungeon in this last fight, which is really nice. I really love the way this is designed. Yeah, it's sort of like a culmination of everything, and you really get to feel heroic.
Um, this might be one of the first times that an enemy has a reaction.
Ooh, indeed. Did the Trapmaster have one at all or not?
I don't think so.
No,
So you'll notice that if you're playing
no.
the pre-gens, for example, the fighter has a reaction. If you try and move away from a fighter, or you do certain things like cast spells or draw weapons, the fighter gets a free attack on you. Well, dragons get that too, and your players are going to be very surprised when that happens to them because
Yeah,
nothing else has done that to them yet, unless a
because yeah,
troglodyte had it. Maybe a trog had it. A Zolgath. I'm sorry, Zolgath. Um, and
but
then of
no.
course, you kill the dragon, you get the dragon's loot.
And you have saved the fish for now.
You have saved. Um, oh, talks about Draconic Frenzy. This is one of the first times where something gets to make 3 attacks for only 2 actions.
Yeah.
So you don't
So
want to
it's like,
stand and
wait, it
bang with the
already
dragon.
moved.
You're like, yeah, well. Um, uh, at least it takes the multiple attack penalty, though.
Yes, yes, it's not one of the ones that avoids it until afterwards.
Which is
Yeah,
crazy, yeah.
nasty.
So, I mean,
But this is a difficult encounter.
uh, all in all, that is the adventure. It's a really great introductory adventure, minus the no diplomacy thing. Although we do get the
We do get
intimidation.
one. We do get one right near the end with
Yeah.
the one of the kobolds.
Um,
But
I think they avoided the surrender thing because they didn't want to completely remove an entire combat
yeah,
from like a single roll, maybe.
I just think like the whole thing,
Um,
like chasing one of them away with an intimidation could be cool. But, yeah.
and I mean, the adventure is about 30 pages of this
Yeah,
92-page game master guide. And I mean, it goes over lots of stuff: planning sessions, starting sessions, what supplies you'll need, how to
yeah.
spotlight each player and keep attention, uh, secret checks.
Well, it
So
doesn't tend to use them as much
a
in the
game master, yeah, a game master in a lot of tabletop RPGs isn't told they're supposed to roll for you. But Pathfinder specifically makes it known that a game master is supposed to roll some
yeah,
of your checks for you. You don't always get to roll the dice. You're like, oh, I want to stealth into this room, so I'm hidden. Well, you don't know if you pass or fail. You don't know
yeah,
if you've rolled a 1 or a 20. You have no
yeah.
idea until the results of that come up.
Obviously, if you trust your players not to metagame, you can still let them roll. And I often do, especially with my home games, because I trust them that if they roll a terrible stealth check, they're still going to walk into that room like they're stealthy. But if you're like, your players are like, oh no, no, I'll end up playing how I know. If you want them to just play as if they don't know, it's really good to use secret checks for that.
Um, really experienced players can also see those types of rolls because they will change the way they describe their actions to account for what they rolled.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you want to avoid an issue where like a player will see a bad roll on an action they've decided to take and then not want to take the action
Yeah. They're
because
like, I stealth, and then crit fail, like, okay, I don't go in. And you're like, but you're stealthing. It's like, you think you're stealthing.
yeah. Um,
You
talks
haven't
about
seen the dice.
talks about social interactions. Social interactions have the same importance as uh, combat interactions, and a lot of people skip over this. Um, I especially hate it when I'm playing an extremely charismatic character, and
Yeah.
I wanna impress the king when I go to meet him, and they're like, oh well, what do you say? I don't know. Whatever my bard says to impress the king, that's what I say. Here's my roll. It's a 30. And they're like, well, you
Yeah.
need to tell me what you say. No, I really don't, because you don't ask me to stand up and perform my
So you
flipping.
sword.
Right? You
Yeah, I
don't.
think
You
it can
don't.
be tricky. I think one of the worst things is when they expect you to sing as a bard. It's like I'm playing a role that I can't necessarily play in real life. That's why I'm role playing.
Um, but there is some give and take here, right? Like you shouldn't just be like, I want to use diplomacy. I rolled a 47. What happens? It needs to be like, I'm trying to achieve
Yeah, what
A.
are you trying to do? And they might even say, what like do you discuss? Like you don't have to say how you do it, but what are you getting at? Because sometimes that can affect roles if you mention certain things.
I mean,
So you're
just
like, oh,
like it's just like combat, though, right? Like when I roll
yeah,
an attack roll, I'm rolling to
yeah,
hit. Well, why are you
yeah,
rolling a diplomacy? Well, because I want the king to like me. Sure, roll a diplomacy.
yeah. You're making an impression.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and Pathfinder does do. They have a lot of actions built into this game and its
yeah,
skills. Like there is specifically an action to do that, make an impression. Like
yep,
the rules are there. You roll the check against this, and if this happens, this happens. And like you
yeah,
can, people, role playing games are meant for role playing, but you have to remember that the dice are there so that people can live a fantasy that they can't live in real life. And a lot of
yeah,
people forget that when it comes to the role playing and the social side of the game. Um,
yeah.
like my 190-pound 40-year-old self is not gonna get a great sword and run around chopping rat heads off to make a living.
You should try it.
That sounds fun, right?
Yeah.
So I want to do that in game. Um, uh, it talks about choosing monster actions here, which is goes back to the kobolds with the trap. They don't know the trap is
Yes.
armed, so you have to be very careful not to metagame yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, talks about
A
ending
good thing to always do
encounters.
is look at the intelligence of the creature as well. Like if it's an intelligent creature, you're like, okay, yeah, this could understand flanking or something. And it's like, but if it's got like a -6 intelligence, it's like this thing doesn't necessarily understand that like it is being flanked, so it's not going to step out the flank, like, or it's not going to target the wizard. It's just like you don't do something that's smart if your creature is not smart.
Yep. I like the bypassed encounters here, where it talks about
Yes.
if through careful planning and things like that, they are
Yeah.
able to bypass an encounter, give them the experience for the encounter. However, if they got a
Absolutely.
lucky roll that found a secret passage that you had planted there, thinking no one would see it, but hey, whatever. If they roll an at 20, they can find it. Then you give them experience for like a minor or a moderate accomplishment. They actually
Yeah.
lose XP by using that, but they don't they don't lose hit points in magic
No.
potions and spells.
But no,
So
I'm glad. Yeah, it doesn't. Again, the game doesn't punish you for taking other routes as well. I appreciate and why I wish there was more diplomacy because yeah, it does allow you to take things where you can hit something, or you can negotiate with something, or you can sneak around something, and it explicitly allows you to be rewarded either way. Because I feel like some games punish you for non-combat approaches, where it's like, no, you need to like farm 50 villagers if you want to level up. It explicitly encourages combat situations in places where combat isn't a good idea, even. And I like games that reward you for like finding solutions, no matter what that solution is. So I like that a lot.
it this talks about downtime in a very basic way. The only two downtime activities that it explains here are shopping for magic items and resting long enough to
Yeah,
recover from ailments and
I
uh,
feel like that's the only things you're going to be using in this
in
thing.
this
I'm
adventure.
glad they don't go too much. And again, they do have like I think like one little page on exploration activities that does go into things like search and avoid notice, which could be used. But again, are not the focus. A lot of this is introducing the basics, and I appreciate they can't go into everything.
This chart has been very easy for me to understand building encounters for a new game master. It looks like uh, they kind of explain it. The XP that you get from defeating something depends upon your level compared to the
Yes.
creature's level.
Yeah.
So if you're level 2 and the creature's level is level 2, then you get 60 experience. So
So farming villagers at level 10 is not going to get you anything.
yeah. Um, Here it talks about accomplishment XP. This is for when you want to put in quests. Oh, returning the silver locket that gets found in the mud to the rightful owner because you made skill checks after you got out of the dungeon to see who it belonged to, and instead of
Yeah.
selling it for money, you want to give it back. Boom.
Yeah.
Instead of money, you get XP. It's a great thing.
Yeah. So
Uh,
again, you don't lose out for choosing a different solution.
you should never not get a reward for everything you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes the reward can be a bad reward, like being murdered by the guards because you tried to kill the king, but it's still a reward.
Consequences. Yeah.
Nah, rewards only, no consequences. Talks about
Dear.
difficulty classes.
Yep, and again, this is
This,
something we've seen before. That the DC Untrained 10, you can see was the Abadar one we saw before.
yep. So you can see the level-based DCs here. This is one of the best charts in Pathfinder. I use it all the
Yeah,
time.
so simple.
It's it's not just based on creature levels, right? It's also based on like what level of task are they doing? Like how hard do you want it to be?
Yeah,
If you're like, well, yeah, making so like items have levels in and of themselves. Like
yeah,
most items are 0, so as you can see, it's a DC of 14. But if you want to make full plate armor, for example, that is a level 1 item. So the DC of crafting that obviously raises by 1 to a 15.
yeah.
If you want to make a 5th level magic item, not only do you need a specific feat, which requires a specific type of training, but you also have to hit a DC of 20 because that's a 5th level magic item. Here it talks about
Although,
the skills.
if perhaps you are making one that is like you're an elf and you're making an elven magic item, the GC might be adjusted
It
by
might be.
you have the adjustments, so they might give you the easy adjustment because this is something you have a lot of experience with. So the GM can add different adjustments to items, or it might be something that's a very old and ancient item that you've never heard of before. So instead, it gets the very hard adjustment.
What else do we got in here? Oh, it's talking about this right here is giving specific examples for some skills. It's telling you that tracking and survival, like an untrained tracking thing, would be the path of a large army following a road. Like you're like, yeah, the
This
army
is
went
not
down
hard
this
to
road.
find. Everything is traveled.
You know, and whereas a trained character might be able to find fresh tracks of a rampaging bear, and an expert is a nimble panther's tracks through a jungle obscured by rainfall. Yeah, that's pretty. You would need to be an expert to find that.
Yeah.
Here's where Alice was talking about starter stories. This gives you ideas for at least 8 different things. Talks about drawing maps.
Oh, look, we get a nice kobold thing in here. Number 8, a jeweler claims kobolds are bothering him, but they're just trying to reclaim a pendant he stole from them. So you can have like a nice kobold adventure, and in that one you could introduce some like negotiation where it becomes clear that the kobolds aren't actually in the wrong here. So I like
Wow.
that. Like that's one way you could go to fight the kobolds again, and you're fighting a different group of kobolds who then you end up negotiating with. So yeah, and I do love that. Yeah, they give you all these little like possible starter stories, and then the pawns that they give you are for like the creatures mentioned in the stories. Like you have like the doppelganger, we get the doppelganger and everything. So for all the creatures, you have the pawns. So it's not like to run those stories. You need to get anything extra. Everything is in the beginner's box that you need, even for those. Just like choose a story and run it yourself. It's all in the box, and that's really good. I cannot stress like, especially getting the physical copy of this box. I think is so worth it.
Oh,
It's
absolutely
brilliant.
worth it. Absolutely.
Just being like, here's just what you need. Just go.
I mean, you can kill a lot of these monsters too. I'm just saying. Where were we at? It's going to give you map making tips with common symbols that are used for map making. A lot of your virtual tabletop programs use these same symbols or different colors for things. So as you can see, this is actually the first level of the dungeon mapped a different way.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't notice that.
Very cool.
Um,
But no, and I love this as well. Like, what you're talking about, sort of ideas for like what kind of rooms we have. This like just strange rooms area because it's something I've talked with before with someone like, hey, I'm building a temple. Well, but I want there to be multiple rooms. But I can't think for the life of me what the other rooms would be. A lot of people struggle to conceptualize like how many different kinds of functions there are for different rooms.
yep.
And what they like can include. It's not just like, oh, there's just this one room. It's like, no, it's like if does somebody live there? If they live there, there needs to be bedrooms, there needs to be a kitchen, there needs to be just like, don't forget the latrines. It's like if this is an area devoted to like study, we need to have libraries, we need to have study rooms, there might be offices. It's like, I love that it gives you ideas of what kind of rooms could be in a place and gives you sort of ideas. And I love don't forget the latrines, because yeah, it's like, yeah, if somebody lives here, they need somewhere to go. It's like, so yeah.
So this is the only place that this little chart appears in anything that Paizo has published, as far as I know.
The
Uh,
encounter groups. Yes, I love
yes.
this.
Um,
This is really useful, even just outside of the beginning box. This is great.
so this tells you what level that enemies need to be, or how many of what level, to
Yeah.
challenge specific levels of players. So obviously levels 1, 2, and 3, which is all the beginner box covers.
Yep.
If you notice that obviously there is nothing in the beginner box that's higher than 5th level. So there is no solo boss for a party of 3rd level, unfortunately. So
But no, but this is really useful because it is funny to like encounter thing, but laid out in a sort of clear ways and like exactly what you can get and exactly how it should be low threat, moderate threat, or severe threat for it. And yeah, I think I really appreciate that. Like that's a chart I will use even like outside of beginner box stuff, just because it's really useful.
it would be nice if they continued it up past party
Yes,
level
if we had
3.
like a full one.
Yeah, all the way to 20. That would be great. Whoa, I just skipped a page. Individual monster XP. You know, it's just like the other chart where it's telling you, like, if the creature is the same level as the party, it's worth 40. If it's one level higher than the party, it's worth 60. If it's one level lower than the party, it's worth 30. Um, if you're um, if you're fighting things that are party level -3, past first or second level, they're not getting experience because wow, a 3 level difference is almost,
It's like you're just stomping these guys.
yeah, like the power scale of Pathfinder is amazing. The first, I want to say, 5 levels are like you're not strong at all, really. Like you're not. You're like
You're just like
barely making it
stumbling
in the
through,
world.
learning it all. Yeah.
At 5th level, you're what people would consider a like you're a badass. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
You're a badass.
Yeah, hero.
At 10th level, you are well beyond a,
Ridiculous.
yeah. At 10th level, you're almost a legendary character. Um, at 15th level, you are literally doing things that superheroes do in
Yeah.
other genres. Like Batman is a 15th level character, probably higher,
Yeah.
but still, like
Yeah.
my
Whereas
16th
like
level
by
rogue.
and then by like level 20, you're like you can be a herald of your god.
Yeah. Well, like at level 16, my 16th level rogue in Age of Ashes can just be invisible. Just no, I'm just gonna hide right
Just
here
wants
in
to.
this
Yeah.
in this room with nothing in it but 100 people looking at me.
It's like, okay, cool.
And they're like, "Oh,
Pause the
well,
chat.
roll it," and you're like, "Oh no, I failed." And then the GM's like, "Haha, you failed." And you're like, "Oh, but I treat failures as successes."
This is the worst.
And you get that at 10th
Rogues.
level as a rogue, actually.
Rogues
Stealth
ridiculous.
savant, just treat stealth failures as successes. It's great. Uh, Talks
I
about
love
role
this
playing.
art on the next page as well.
This is where it's getting into the role playing and story aspect.
I
This
love the
game,
arts as well that we
you
have in
can
Fur. The
you can
traps.
make up anything you want. Anything you want. You can tell the most elaborate. So you could be the next J.R.R. Tolkien, the next George R.R. Martin. You could do that with this game.
You need to put RRs into your name to be that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I become James R.R.
Yeah.
Wren.
There you go.
Wren R.R. Wren.
RRR.
Just 14 R's. It's fine. Here's talking about the treasure, magical treasures, and magical consumables that the party can get. Um, it also tells you how much treasure you should put into it based on the level of the party and how severe or whatever. Like if you're doing a level 1 party is doing like a severe encounter, you should probably put 26 gold pieces worth of treasure in that encounter for
Yeah.
them. Which, as you look here, you could do, I don't know, 8 first level spell scrolls, for example. That's
Yeah.
close. Um,
Or you could put like an ever burning torch and a like
Ever
bird
burning
feather
torches
toucan
are
in.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to talk about environments here: aquatic, Arctic, desert. They have their own specific types of rules for balancing, for swimming, for how hard the current is. Deserts for packed sand. How your sight is, what kind of sounds and smells you might have. This is a
I
really,
love that. Yeah, for
really
atmosphere
good.
again.
Yeah, I mean, man, if I'd have had something like this when I first started tabletop RPGs, I
Yeah.
would probably be a better game master than I am now. But just because, like, I never thought about it. They're like, oh, you're in the mountains, include lava. I'm like, what? I could include lava? I didn't think about that. You know?
And then yeah, just describing sort of like sort of the howling wand and the falling rocks. So like really giving like the like textures and lights and sounds really makes it feel a lot more real. I love it.
I
Really
mean,
cool.
here, it even gives you, like, information on how to move through crowds with your social skills, how to unlock doors or break them down, and how many successes you need. Um, Because, yeah, it's not one success opens the door, it's usually two or more.
Yeah.
Um, Talks about the sites, climate. There's
Yeah.
a lot of good information in this. You don't even need the CRB unless you want to be fourth level. Unless you want to be fourth level.
That's the thing, no, but for like low levels, this is all you need.
Yeah,
It's not like you need to get the beginner's box and something else, which I appreciate. It's not like a bit of a scam. It's like no, you can run
that's why they
again
need
a series of low level adventures with
they
this.
need an intermediate box with another
Yeah,
adventure.
yeah. We just want all the boxes.
Yeah, I love it. Here's traps, hazards. Oh, it talks
Yes,
about magic items,
we
buying and
get some more
selling.
cool art here. Again, I really love. I didn't expect there to be new art in here. It's really nice to. It's cool to see.
All right, guys. Where is it? There is
Where's what?
a. Is this? It looks like they may have fixed it.
Was there a mistake?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I think they fixed. I think the first. I think I have a first draft here. Um,
Where is this?
I think the Roll20 draft has it. There's a
I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
the poisonous dagger. I think it actually was slated as too low of a price in like the first thing that I looked at
Yeah,
because it was only like 65 gold or something, and it's a plus
for
one striking
sword
weapon
striking.
that has an
Yeah,
additional
no,
item, and I was like, huh,
wait,
no, you
no, it's
can't you can't
150
buy
here.
those. Yeah, you can't buy those players. Get out of here.
You're like, yeah, no, I've got it, it's all good.
Let me
But
see.
no, and then
It
we get into
is.
sort of the
Oh,
creatures at the back.
it has it. It has it listed as 35 gold on Roll20.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would buy all of those. Plus one
But no,
striking dagger
that might be a roll 20 thing. It's not in here.
and you critically succeed on an attack
Yeah,
roll
you're
and
like, yeah,
fangs
I
emerge
bought
and
one of
poison.
these. Guys.
Yeah, I'm buying that for 35 gold. So Roll20, if you're watching this, fix the poisonous dagger. It's actually 150 gold.
Don't. I'm getting that. I'm getting that.
Yeah, okay. Um, Lots
No,
of
I love
magic
that we
items
basically get a
here.
little bestiary at the end with all the
Oh,
creatures.
do
So
we?
again, you do not need to get anything else. Yeah. So for all of the pawns that we have, all of the creatures that are included,
Uh,
we then get a little bestiary.
this is some really good information here for identifying a creature. I will go out and say, and Alice and I have talked about it on all our reviews. The recall and knowledge needs a little more love. They need to,
Really cool to have here.
yeah,
A
because
chapter in the
it's
book dedicated to recall knowledge. But
because,
that's not something I expect from the beginner box, to be fair.
right. But it's like the rules for recall knowledge are very like you learn about this creature, and then the game master's like, well, what do they learn? And they're like, I don't
Yeah.
know. What do you want to tell them? And that's kind of, I mean, that's fine, I guess. I mean, we figure
It
up
would
all
be
our own
nice to
ways,
have
but
like a dedicated chapter in some kind of book that
yeah.
goes into recall knowledge. And even if it has like alternative ways of using it, so that different GMs can do it, but just like platforms or templates of what it should be nice.
So the same art that appears here is probably the same art from the pawns, I would assume.
Yes, and
Yep.
I will say some of this art like is for creatures who didn't have art in the bestiary, so some of this is new as well, unless it
Oh
comes from
man,
different sources. Like the Zeph Airhawk, we didn't have art for,
man,
but
that
in
is
here we have it.
that bugbear looks especially fun. Yeah.
So no, so again, it's like you don't need to pick up a bestiary to run this.
Doppelgangers look like
Even
straight up
again,
aliens.
yeah, the doppelgangers are so freaky. But again, like this isn't just the creatures who appear in the adventure either. This is all of the creatures that appear in the pawns. So they really don't skimp out on what they actually give you.
So if you wanted to know what was down that path, that leads to the Darklands. It's probably these drow.
Yes. Throw some drow in.
There might be a brine shark, which is just a shark made out of
Just,
water.
yeah.
There's the picture of the cinder rat, a sod hound. Gargoyles? That is a good picture of a zephyr hawk, too.
It is. It's like I haven't seen that before. I'm not sure if we got it somewhere else or this is the first place we've got it. But it's really
Ghosts,
cute. It really gives you an idea
ghouls.
of what it looks like.
The cutest thing in Pathfinder, the goblins.
Yes, we all love God. Good goblin. You can play them.
A pug wumpy gremlin looks like a dog.
It does.
That's crazy. That's nice. Harpy, hellhound. Man, it's a lot of good stuff. I want to play the beginner box. All the cool kobolds. The mimic. The mimic as something that isn't a treasure chest.
I know. It's always wild. That is actually from the bestiary.
Yep.
This is a chair instead. You sit on it and then it eats you.
A sewer ooze and an ogre. Some orcs. An owlbear, which is the most intimidating thing I've ever seen.
It's adorable.
Imagine a 900-pound owl with claws like that, though, that can't fly.
I
That's
would
crazy.
die. I would just die.
Oh, let's see, we got giant rats and shadows and
Need your
Look at
giant
that.
rats for the adventure.
a giant skeleton. A couple of snakes. Spider. The troll. I think that's the most powerful creature in the book. In the beginner
Definitely up
box.
there. Yeah, it's level 5. So
Now,
if you want to do a bigger fight.
115 hit points and 20 regenerations. Probably fine, guys.
That's the kind of thing that you want to, before they go off to fight it, they get warned by a villager to use acid or fire. Like,
I mean,
oh
they got a white in here, too, so.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No. And then we get a little, like, gazetteer of Atari.
So
really
Atari,
nice.
so Atari is like the, it's a town that they've specifically created, and Paizo has done this a few different times. They've done it with Falcon's Hollow, they've done it with Sandpoint. Now they're doing it with Atari, and they kind of like describe the town in such great elaborate detail that people almost feel like they themselves have been to that town. Like they begin to know all the NPCs' names. Like you can see yourself walking down the streets. Like I can tell you how many turns I need to take walking down the street to get from the Sleeping Dragon to the Glassworks in Sandpoint, for example.
Yeah.
And this is their thing. This is missing from the Roll20 version. The key. The labels are on the map, but
Oh no!
the key is not there. Don't worry. I got an in. I'll talk to somebody and we'll figure that out.
I love it. I love the Rowdy Rockfish, a surprisingly calm and quiet tavern. I love that. Like, just the flavour there, where it's like, it feels like something that should be like more lively because it's all with the Rowdy Rockfish.
But what about the ruins of the Thirsty Alpaca?
That's so good. R.I.P. the thirsty alpaca. No, that's brilliant. No, there's so much like heart here, and again, it's like if you've got a team who aren't really cared about Atari, you don't need to have this as much. If you've got a team who are like coming up from the dungeon every now and then and like trying to get help around the town and talking to people, this like means that you don't sit there like panicking and screaming, and gives you an idea of like what's actually in the town and the other things they might run into and people who could help them. And yeah, I think that's really cool for players who are more roleplay focused.
I mean, they give you 4 dangerous locales right here, and then they give you what, a dozen? A dozen? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, half a dozen story seeds.
Story seeds
plus the 8 story seeds from before. That's 14,
literally,
and 4. That's 18. That is 18 different adventures.
You can get so much mileage out of this. It's ridiculous.
And once again, remember that you can use milestone leveling if you're a new player. You do not have to give experience points for everything that it comes out. You can do 10 adventures at level 1, and then do 10 at level 2, and do 30 at level 3. You can play to your hearts out. I'm assuming that if you're getting that much mileage out of the beginner box, first of all, man, you got to steal $40 for that much entertainment. But I mean, just buying the bestiary and the core rulebook after that, I mean, your adventures will never end. I mean, if you're getting that kind of mileage out of the beginner box,
it's ridiculous. It's great.
And then of
No, but
course we
what
get
you were saying
to.
about the like,
Oh, go ahead.
what you were saying about like you can do it however you want. I believe there was a part earlier on in the game master where it does say explicitly when talking about the adventure that like the text is just a guide. I can't remember where this was, but it was saying explicitly that like it's just a guide and you don't have to run it exactly like it is. And if you want to change things, you can. And I'm really glad that they put that in there because I feel like some people sometimes you need permission. I feel like sometimes when you're like, oh no, I can't change it. This is what it said, and it's like some people need to be around. There's not role playing cops who are gonna knock down your door if you change things in an adventure. Like you can do what you want, and I'm glad that they put that in there because it's like yeah, if you do want them to actually negotiate with the kobolds and then they all end up raising the dragon, you can do that. Again,
Yeah,
you're not going to
absolutely.
have your door knocked down by the Paizo police. It's like if you're like, oh, I like parts of this adventure, but I want to do my own spin on it. Do that. It's like, and I'm glad that's encouraged because it's like, yeah, that's something I think I struggled with before, where it's like, oh, but this is what it says I have to do. And it's like, it's a guide, it's a framework that's trying to help you. It's not something that's trying to like control you. So just use what you want and discard what you don't want. So yeah, so I appreciate that.
I mean, I'll say it. Every table is different.
That's the thing.
In the roll to roll community, we attempt to because there are so many GMs in our community. Myself, Alice, Bevan, Cody, Dan, Philip, Corinne, just a ton of great game masters. And what we try to do is we all, well, Alice, I, and Cody, and Dan and Philip, for example, all run Pathfinder Second Edition, and John. Wow, more than I thought.
Let's
And we
go.
stream. And so what we try to do is we try and make our rules. Um, we try and rule the same way across all our games because we play with each other so much. And I
Just
mean,
keep
your
consistency.
yeah, and your group is going to come to their own conclusions. You're going to interpret a rule, to
Yeah,
be A, B, or C, and one of them is probably right, probably, but it could be that there just isn't a right way at all. Like recall
yeah.
knowledge, there is certainly not a right way. If there is, it's not written in any books. It's very
yeah.
open ended for what you want to do.
No,
Like
I know different people ways people do that. Some people do it like depending on how many like numbers above the DC you got is how many questions you get. And there's the way some people get and stuff like if you're five above you get two questions. If you're 10 above you get three questions, stuff like that. And like so yeah, I know that's the way some people do it. Other people are just like yeah, I'll tell you like what I think is important about this that you should know and stuff.
some
It's
people tell
like
you to look it up in the bestiary. Yeah, you made the
yeah,
check.
just
Look it
like
up in the
hey, there's
bestiary.
the stat block. Oh okay.
Um,
Sweet.
the index for a game master, and I know we've covered this more from a game master perspective. I promise you, if you're just being a player, the hero's handbook is just as thorough. Um,
Yep.
but it has specific rules for you in the hero's handbook. Like you're not going to come across very many situations where you're like, I don't know how to do this because you're going to ask the game master. You're going to be like, the book doesn't say how to do this, and he's going to either he or she is going to
Yes,
be
it does.
like,
Yeah.
this is how it works, or yeah, it is. It's listed right here. You missed it. But the index here in the back of the game master's book is really good. It puts all of those tables right here, identifying creatures, what kind of trait they have, which skill to use, difficulty classes, level-based
Yeah.
DCs, the
This is a brilliant
adjustments.
page. Again, this
Um,
is a page that you just want to print out multiple times and give it to loads of people.
this is where we start talking about combat movement, which is also in the hero book, if I'm not mistaken. Talks about movement on the battle map.
I would assume so. Yeah, yes. You have stuff with
So as you see here, it begins to give you that, tells you what cover does, bonus and penalties. That may be the last page, actually. Yeah, quit
yeah.
spinning.
So there's some little
Those those two
nice
pages
sort
are
of they're
amazing.
almost like reference pages, yeah, just to have. So no, it's brilliant.
What can we get into? I mean, obviously spells and equipment, classes, ancestries, backgrounds. Here's the equipment. It's talking about weapons. Shows you what a star knife is. It's a very unique weapon for
Yeah.
Galarian. Um,
And it's good for Desnants because one of the things in this is the Desnants, so it's good for you to see what your weapon will look like.
so the game also has cost of living. Basically, it tells you how much money it takes for your character to live out a week or a month without adventuring. This is kind of like you get up, you go eat, you take care of your chores and whatever. Um, Talks about finishing your hero here with a little coded thing here for defenses and all that. Gears right up to the
Yeah,
character
this is
sheet.
really good. Yeah, just to make it very clear. I think
Your
we're supposed to be
skills.
doing.
This is a good chart. I don't think I've seen this chart before. Published before. Obviously, I've seen this chart where it breaks things
Which
down.
chart is this? Sorry.
It is in the Hero's Guide on page 51, 53 maybe?
Yes. So you can see which actions are with each one.
Yep. So it tells you.
I was just looking at the little alignment thing. They've done quite a good, succinct way of describing some of the alignments, and they don't have any of the evil ones.
I think evil alignments are uncommon. Aren't
Yes.
they?
So
Aren't they
you're
considered
certainly
uncommon?
not. I think evil champions are not evil alignments in general, but evil champions are, because then you're literally dedicated to the cause of evil, which is a little bit much. But obviously for the beginner's boss, it is assuming you are not playing evil adventurers. But I think they've done quite a good job of very succinctly describing the alignments in a way that makes sense. So I think that was
I
quite
mean, here
impressive
we've
because that can
got
be
a
quite complex.
and we've got a sidebar here for narrating actions. So instead of just being like I roll 19 to hit and do 14 damage, you can describe it.
Yeah.
Like I run
Again,
up and
depends on
slide
what you
under
want to do.
this or hop
Yeah.
over that. And I lunge in like this and that. You can describe it.
Yeah,
A lot of
because
people,
some people don't like doing that stuff. Some people adore it. It's
well,
up to you. So,
it's one of those two-way double-edged swords, kind of like the whole role-playing social encounters and
yeah,
and not wanting to roll everything. Like you want everyone to distinctly describe their social encounters and then not roll, but you want people to just roll their combat encounters. And I get it. If that's your cup of tea, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but the game is built around being able to play things that you can't do. If you're super shy or you have anxiety speaking in front of people and you want to be a bard and you just want someone else to go, well, why wouldn't Adam do it? Adam's the bard, got a great diplomacy, and Adam just picks the die up and rolls it. I mean, it's up to the table to kind of determine what happens. It's the same thing with knowledge checks, right? Just
yeah.
because just because you're playing the 18 intelligence wizard might not mean that you yourself are, a prodigy of magical. You're not Harry Potter, right? Um, but that so when you roll dice and the barbarian with an 8 intelligence gets it, it doesn't necessarily mean for your group that the barbarian is the one that came up with the idea. It could still be the wizard played by another player, depending on how you want to see your
See,
group
I don't
roles
know.
working.
I wouldn't do it like that. I
No,
think
some
I
people
would.
wouldn't. Some
Yeah.
people would.
I think for that, the barbarian. I think for like situations like that, it's cool to think. Like again, I like that in Pathfinder explicitly says there's some situations you can't do. Like so, if a barbarian doesn't have much intelligence and there's a master intelligence check, they literally cannot do it. Full stop. Even if they
No.
rolled an at 20, they're just not allowed to. But the real situations where somebody unexpected gets a roll, and you gotta have to think why they know that. And I
Yep.
think that can add really cool story stuff. Where you're like, okay, yeah, this is actually something that's it's an interesting way we can approach this.
Depends on how you want to go.
Yeah.
What else we got? Oh, exploration activities. We finally got there. Avoiding notice, defending,
Yeah,
detect
yes,
magic,
yeah,
hustling, investigate, scout. So exploration activities are kind of like where you're doing something between combats.
yeah,
Like if you're avoiding notice, that means that you are being stealthy. You're trying not to be
yeah.
heard. You're trying not to be seen. You're moving around half speed. Um, the biggest thing is that lets you roll your stealth instead of your perception for initiative. So if you're better at stealth than perception, for
Yeah.
example, you would want to do that.
Whereas on my champion, when I remember, I like to defend a lot of the time as my exploration activity because that means I can start combat with my shield raised, which can be very helpful.
Until your first turn begins, I have found a lot of people that think that means they get to have their shield raised for free on their
No,
first
no, no,
turn,
no, 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 no. Yeah,
but it
no,
doesn't.
no.
Detecting
But it means if
magic.
I'm getting attacked with my crappy initiative before my turn.
Uh, detect magic is also one you're basically just using the detect magic spell over and
Yeah,
over and over again.
got wizards who do
Um,
this in my games.
you won't this the detect magic spell only lets you know that within a certain area around you that there is magic.
Yeah,
Um, and the magic spell does dictate that you can exclude magic that you already know is there.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're not just
so
pinging
it's kind
off
of
your
like,
friends
yeah, it's kind of like
constantly.
radar, right? Like, yeah, I know what all
Yeah.
those pings are. That's my ships, you
Yeah.
know. Hustle is when you try and move faster. I haven't had that come up in a game.
No, I feel like that's something much more for like large overland travel rather than dungeon travel. That's probably not going to come up in Atari stuff either. That's much more for like when you're trying to cross large distances and need to do it quickly.
Investigate is really good. No one ever really does this in our games either. This is where when something, I don't want to say happens, when something interesting becomes available to notice or see, you get that quick free recall knowledge. Like you get to see if you know something about it before you interact with it in any way, combat or socially or whatever. Um, Scout just gives a +1 bonus to everyone in your group's initiative checks. Um, you kind of have to have a little bit of a suspension of belief there with that one because it says that you are in front of and behind the party scouting. But anytime you roll initiative, like you're still, I guess, supposed to be with the party because how would you have
Yeah.
gotten past it? You know, it's assumed that you saw it first and went back and told them. Search is obviously where you get to make hidden secret, or the GM makes secret checks to see if you spot things. Cinch direction so you don't get lost seems pretty. And then obviously if you're tracking things.
Which we saw with the survival skill earlier, how to do that at different levels of training, what you can track down.
The heroes book basically explains combat because those
Yeah.
are very structured rules. Everybody's using the same rules for combat. I mean, the game master doesn't have special rules for combat, really. I mean, he may have additional rules for combat, but they're not special. Um, the monsters still have 3 actions. The monsters still have 1 reaction. The monsters still
Yep.
go on initiative. The monsters still have to hit you. It's going to explain how to take turns. Here's basic actions, which are also detailed on the reference card. Talking about attacks, movement, difficult terrain. Here's where we get to movement. It's going to explain
Yes.
hit points and
So,
dying.
and again, I'm glad we have a grid, and I do love that we used some of the map from the actual adventure
Yep.
for this. So this is the room with the kobolds in, because yeah, again, visual cues can be very helpful for people. Using just describing it can sometimes really throw people. Some people can get it like that from that. Others, we need pictures. So having it like this and explaining like where you can go and where you can't is really good.
I wish it would explain. There's
Explain.
flanking. It's not needed for the beginner box, but there is
There is the flanking one.
no, there is right here, but the way flanking is worded, it allows for some justifications that I don't think are meant to be. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a beginner box thing. It's nothing you should be worried about. Explains
Mhm.
dying, unconscious, wounded, recovering. Um, this system doesn't have a you reach 0 hit points, you die. This has a it's sort of like a you've reached 0 hit points. You could
You're dying.
stabilize. Yeah, you could stabilize and be okay, and if nothing, further attacks or harms you, you could be fine. But it also kind of has like a bleeding out, kind of thing too, where either you bleed out or you don't before you die. So your companions have some time to get to you. Could be 1 round, could be no rounds. Sometimes you just straight up die. There are rules for that. You're gonna love them. This looks like
R.I.P.
it talks
Miska.
about the same conditions as the card, and this is going to tell you all about leveling up, getting knocked
And
out.
again,
Quick
we
rules
get this
reference.
quick rules reference and yeah, thing right at the end again. So yeah, this is slightly different from the one we get in the GM1, I think. Or no, I think it's the same, but you get a hero
This one.
rather than a kobold on it.
Yeah, this is the same one that GM gets.
Yes, it is.
This
It
one
is the
is new.
same.
This one is new. It's the last page that we have to show you guys. So I will explain dying and wounded. So So it says right there, if you reach dying 4, you die. So whenever you get hit and you take damage, and it would take you to 0 or below, you automatically gain the dying condition. Now, the number that you gain is based on a few things. If you just got hit by a regular attack, or you just failed a saving throw that ended with you taking damage, you go to dying 1. If you crit failed that saving throw, or that attack critically hit you, you go to dying 2. Um, then wounded. If you're ever healed back to positive hit points, you add those from 0. So if you get healed for 3, you go to 3 hit points. It doesn't matter what the attack did to you. You
Yep, you
become
always
wounded
settle at
1.
0.
Any time that you gain hit points, unless specifically says otherwise, like with hero points, but I don't recall seeing that. So maybe hero points aren't a thing here. I don't know. Did they go over?
I don't think they went over hero points. That's a good call. Let's
Hmm.
see if we can find it.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll continue. So whenever you gain
Yeah.
positive hit points after being at dying, you gain the wounded condition and lose the dying condition. And that wounded condition can be 1 to 3. So the first
Let's look.
time you would be 1, the second time you would be 2. I guess you could be wounded 4 if you had Die Hard, though.
Yes.
So
Well, you can be, yeah. There's certain things that increase your wounded more as well.
yeah,
So you could
that's
actually
not
get higher.
that's not
But
in this though. Yeah,
no,
doomed.
they don't have hero points in here.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That's something
So
I would have included.
if you're wounded and you get hit, you have to add the wounded value to whatever dying value the damage would take you. So normally it'd be dying 1 or dying 2. It now becomes dying 2 or dying
Yeah.
3.
So sometimes you have a baby bear and it's wounded too,
Mm.
and then there's this big ass douchebag demon who quits the bear, and the bear goes straight to dying four,
And
and the
dies.
bear dies, and you never recover.
So
I'm okay.
that is how dying and wounded works. So you can't do what those of us in the tabletop RPG, fantasy role playing community call yo-yoing. You
Down,
can't.
up,
You
down, up,
can't.
down.
Yeah, you can't. Oh, the fighter fell down. I heal him. He stands up. Oh,
Yeah.
he took all the hits again and fell down. I
No,
heal him. He
which I
stands up.
appreciate. I'm glad that going down actually has an impact.
Yep.
So you
So
can't just be really lackadaisical. You're like, well, I'm not dead, so it's fine. I
yep.
love that you actually have to be really scared about that.
Yeah. So usually wounded 1, nobody's worried about. Once people
Yeah.
start getting to wounded 2, they start getting scared because if you're wounded 2 and you get critically hit or critically fail a saving throw, you're dead. With the exception of hero points, which are not included here.
No.
You will learn about hero points when you buy the core rulebook and you expand your knowledge.
See, I missed this box before on the index. It does have a little thing where it's like, you can grab Pathfinder core book and keep playing with different ancestries, like gnomes and goblins. So it does have a little thing where it talks about the other possibilities you can get in classes, like a barbarian and sorcerer. Cool.
Yep.
So it's not with the ancestries and classes, which is what I expected, but there is a thing sort of at the end of the book saying. So there you go. I apologize for saying that was not in there. We do have that there.
So, I mean, all in all, what are your overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts are very positive about this. Like, I have my small gripes, which I've mentioned, but overall, like, I would want to get this as a physical box, like, to run for beginners. Again, I know people who before I would not have introduced you to tabletop role playing through Pathfinder 2 because it would be too complex for them, because they struggle too much with really overwhelming systems. Whereas I think the beginner box is something they could handle, and that's a way to introduce it to them in a safe way and in a way that doesn't, like, scare them, and I think that's really cool. And so I think this opens it up for a lot more players because I mean, you look at the core rule book, it can be very intimidating. I adore it, but it's a brick. Like, if you're a new player coming into the stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. These like little books and like all the little explanations are so much more beginner friendly, which is the entire point of them. And so yeah, I can't but I have to recommend this, especially for beginners and for people who want to introduce beginners. I think it's brilliant as well. But even if you're a beginner GM, I think the GM guide is so good, and the way that the adventure runs through doesn't only teach the players how to play, but teaches the game master how to run it. I think it's fantastic.
So
Yeah.
I think as a player, you have no interest in being a game master whatsoever. You have no interest in, doing that side of the table, I think the beginner box might get a pass for you because you're just not going to use, unless you're a collector, you're just not going to use it, right? You'd be better off just buying the core rule book and,
Yeah.
starting there, about the same price, maybe even cheaper. Um, if you are a game master, though, even if you're an intermediate game master, if you've been doing the game mastering thing for less than 20 years, I would buy this. It's a
Yeah.
definite buy.
It's, again, I would just play reference cards. But
Yeah.
no, it is brilliant.
Um, it'll also help you bring in new players
Yes,
as
that's
a
what I'm
game
getting
master.
at. Like, it's great for introducing new people. Like, if you're not a beginner but you want to introduce beginners, this is fantastic.
And that usually falls to the game master, which is why we covered that way more than the player
Yes,
side.
because I think this is something that's going to be bought more by game masters,
By
and
game
this,
masters
yeah,
or people ready to make the jump. Like
yeah.
even if you're a player who's been playing for 10 years and you've never game mastered and you
But
want
you're
to
like,
game
oh
master,
hey, I want to play this with my friends, and no one wants to run it, so
yep,
I'll try and run it.
yep.
It's like run this. If you're scared about running something, run this. It's all there for you, and it holds your hand, but it also lets you do what you want with it, and it makes it clear that this is your game. But it doesn't just leave you in the lurch.
Uh, my minor gripes are strictly grounded in virtual tabletops
Yes, I
to the
think
PDFs
again,
for me.
this is very built for physical gaming, and it does fall short in some virtual ways. Which I think in one way is fair because it was not designed for that. But I think in another way, there needs to be more design for virtual things because this is the reality for a lot of people. Is that like obviously this year a lot of people play virtually, but also in general, a lot of people do play virtually. Like again, I play with Americans. We don't have the Atlantic spanning teleporter yet, so we do play
What, you
online.
don't? I just got
No,
mine. I
no,
just got
I
mine in
know,
my
and
closet.
it's
Yeah,
the UK because of Brexit. We don't have it yet. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
because of Brexit.
No. Yeah. No. So I think I know for some of the maps they are moving forward to try and make more of them virtual tabletop friendly, which is good, and I hope that's something that continues to happen because I think there is a reality that a lot of us can't always do physical games.
But hey, if you have questions that we didn't cover, if you hit us up on our Discord, which will be in
Yes.
the links below, you can even just drop a question on our YouTube channel. If you come in, Alice and I are our Discord. We're usually always online. It's very rare that I see Alice off and
I
myself. Um, we have a good group of community there, probably 100 or so people. Uh, a third of which I would say could answer any question you needed. Another third that would try, and another third that wouldn't know what you were talking about, because that's the way communities are. They'd be like, "What? Pathfinder 2? I'm only here for Vampire. What are you talking?" Um,
Hey, we
so
got vampires in Pathfinder.
yes, we do. So what do you think? Like overall, you think it's a buy? Oh, she may have had some European internet love. Well, on that note, hit us up. You know, down below and hit us up in Discord and we'll answer anything you want. Have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.